And welcome back. Free Speech TV is in its fundraising drive. I believe the overall goal is about $300,000. Typically, our show raises a good chunk of that, sometimes as much as half, and which would be $150,000, which over 15 days, 3 weeks of fundraising drive would be $10,000 a day. And Monday we hit 4,000, and yesterday we hit 6,000. So we're falling behind. Well, we're getting better here, but we need to make up what we've lost, and we need to catch up, and we need your help. Because we've got to pay the bills. We've got to keep this network running. We've got to keep the lights on. We've got to keep the programs flowing, and we need to keep, reaching out to new people and saying, hey, there's actual progressive programming going on, on Dish Network, on DirecTV, on cable systems all around the country, and you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on, well, I know that they're working on Apple TV. They don't have that yet. I think that Hulu has cut a deal with Free Speech TV. If not, it's about to. I mean, there's just like all kinds of cool stuff here, and a lot of great ways that people can find this show and find this network. But we've got to keep it going. And that means we need you to call 877-378-8669 right now and make a contribution to support Free Speech TV. Independent media. I mean, genuinely independent media, media that's not owned by a giant conglomerate, media that is not dancing to the tunes of giant pharma or oil or whatever advertisers, is a real rare thing. I mean, we used to think that our independent media was NPR. And then, during the Reagan administration, they started cutting back the funding to it, to the point now where only 7% of their revenue is coming from the federal government. And the majority of it is being made up now with corporate contributions. Have you noticed that they no longer do investigative reporting? They no longer call out companies for their Instead, they're putting on regularly people from Heritage and American Enterprise. These are the so-called think tanks that are just really PR front groups for big corporations and the billionaires that they create. So independent media in the United States is pretty much down to here, to Free Speech TV. It's pretty spooky when you think about it. But, we need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help to make this independent television network strong, to make it grow, to help it grow. Well, and right now, first, we've just got to pay the bills for the next quarter. So please call now. If with a $60 gift, we will send you a Free Speech TV water bottle. That's with a $60 gift. With a $120 gift, we'll send you a copy of Sarah Van Gelder's new book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through the New America by Sarah Van Gelder. She's the publisher, or the editor of Yes Magazine. And this is a 12,000-mile journey that she took, and she chronicles her story through it. With a $150 contribution, you get the Revolution Where You Live book and the DVD of The Spirit of Standing Rock, which is a pretty remarkable piece of video. That's with $150. With $240, you get that Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, a Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. That's all with $240. With $360, and notice all of these are divisible by 12, so that could be, $30 a month, $240 could be $20 a month. With a $360 gift, you get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, and this Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, you're welcome to come to Washington, D.C., and I will be pleased to buy you lunch, and we can sit and talk, and typically we'll get a few people together and we'll have a little pizza party or whatever the consensus is that people would like to eat. So there's a great place around the corner that has actually gluten-free crusts, and I can get a vegan pizza there. But there's a Thai restaurant over here. There's a bunch of stuff. So Ethiopian right downstairs. D.C. is a wonderful city for food and for tourism. So come to D.C., make a $1,000 gift, and have a pizza party with us. But the main thing is helping Free Speech TV keep on going. And to that, Free Speech TV needs your help now. We are behind on our goal for the Monday and Tuesday. And, we haven't really kind of hit our stride here. We really need to raise $10,000 today. And, that's just 100 donations at $100 a piece, I believe, right? Yeah. Or 50 donations at $200 a piece. I mean, that's not an overwhelming goal. We should be able to do that if you will call now and make a contribution. 877-378-8669. This is serious time. This is serious stuff. These are serious times. And we really need independent media in the United States right now to keep people awake and to help people, to be a meeting place, essentially. That's here. Thanks so much for your help. Call now, please. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit freespeechbeets.com.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Wow, the global warming has passed. I say that ironically. This is, all the right-wing hosts, every time it gets cold, they go, oh, it's global warming, as if it's not. Well, the big storm has passed the East Coast, most of the East Coast. I guess it's up in Maine now. And, it's just gotten really, really cold here in Washington, D.C. And this is, very anomalous weather. It's killing the cherry blossoms and whatnot, and which is exactly what you expect when you have global warming. So it actually is the global warming. You ever hear of Robert Schiller? I'm not talking about the pastor of the Crystal Cathedral. This guy won a Nobel Prize as an economist. And back in 2000, he was warning us that the stock market was overvalued and that we were all running on this story we were telling ourselves about everything's different now because of the internet. And he said, no, everything isn't different. The stock market is going to collapse. And it did. And he said the same thing in 2007, and it did. And so here we have this Jason Klenfeld and Adam Hay wrote a piece for Bloomberg.com. The headline, Why Robert Schiller is Worried About the Trump Rally. I'm amazed they're calling this the Trump Rally. This rally started 7 years ago. But in any case, the last time Robert Schiller heard stock market investors talk like this was in 2000. It didn't end well for the bulls. Back then, the Nobel Prize-winning economist says traders were captivated by a new era story of technological transformation. The internet had redefined American business and made traditional gauges of equity market value obsolete. Today, the game changer everybody's buzzing about is political. Donald Trump and his bold plans to slash regulations, cut taxes, and turbocharge economic growth with a $1 trillion infrastructure boom. Schiller says they're both revolutionary eras. But he said, this time a great leader has appeared. The idea is everything is different. And for Schiller, he says, well, everything is not different. And, he's got some charts and graphs and stuff like that. The worldwide uncertainty index is way above the VIX. So he says it's a period of repeated shocks. Anyway, he's getting concerned. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs gets another ding, 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 another person inside the Trump White House or around Donald Trump. U.S. President Donald Trump will nominate Goldman Sachs banker James Donovan. Keep in mind the old CEO of Goldman Sachs, or the head guy at Goldman Sachs, is kind of running our Treasury secretaries. You got Steve Mnuchin. You've got Gary Cohn. Gary Cohn is was the head of Goldman Sachs. Steve Mnuchin, merely a billionaire and associated with Goldman Sachs. This is incredible. So, and he's expected to work on the Trump administration's domestic policy agenda at Treasury. Oh, isn't that great? Yeah, we need Goldman Sachs billionaires telling us what our priorities should be and how our economy should be working and all that kind of thing. What an important thing, right? Meanwhile, student loan defaults jumped by nearly 20% last year. This is from the Associated Press. This is one of the most troubling because it's really hard to default on a student loan. I don't mean it's hard to stop paying them, but when you're thrown into default because the 2005 bankruptcy bill that was that made it impossible, basically, for student loans to be discharged through bankruptcy. Because of that, all these banksters started pouring into these bankruptcy or into these student debt loans because they were not dischargeable. You couldn't walk away from them, or if you do, you're just like destroyed, and they can pursue you forever. And it's just it's just a horrible, horrible thing. And at the end of 2016, 42 million Americans owed $1.3 trillion, and that's just in federal student loans. This is according to the U.S. Department of Education. It doesn't include private student loans, credit cards that are used to pay for student expenses, and home equity loans that are being taken out to finance school. So, probably we're borrowing somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 trillion. But that $1.3 trillion that's out there already, because it's not dischargeable, the banks have been saying, hey, we used to have $1 trillion worth of mortgages, and we turned those into $800 trillion worth of collateralized debt obligations. Let's do this with student loans. And they're doing it. It depends on whose reports you're looking at, because nobody monitors this gray market of CDOs. And so it could be 50 trillion, it could be 200 trillion, but there's a lot of trillions of dollars of tranched derivatives based on these student loans. And now student debt is people are starting to default on it. And these defaults jumping 20%, that's a BFD. That's huge. As of the end of 2016, there were 4.2 million federal direct loan borrowers in default. That's up 17% from the end of 2015. And that was as of the end of last year. So this is something to keep your eye on. Here, something is going on. Started 14 minutes ago. And, people call up and they say, well, why aren't the Democrats doing anything? Keith Ellison, Sheila Jackson Lee, Jared Polis, and Dan Beyer, Democrats from Minnesota, Texas, Colorado, and Virginia, respectively, and all members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the CPC, along with other members of the CPC and employees of the Environmental Protection Agency, met 15 minutes ago on the front lawn, or on the front steps, of the EPA here in Washington, D.C., to oppose Trump's environmental budget cuts in front of the EPA. They're doing this as we speak. Are you, I guess you'd have to, leave what you're listening to right now to check. But I can tell you, I've got monitors here in the studio, at least CNN and MSNBC. Neither one of them are even talking about it. Because nobody's bleeding, and it's not being funded by billionaires. Now, if these were Tea Partiers, the billionaires would have gotten their big PR companies here in town, a dozen members of the House Freedom Caucus, the Cokehead Caucus, are showing up someplace and protesting. Oh, we've got to be there. It would happen, right? If a couple of people from the right-wing caucuses were to hold a press conference today, anywhere, on any topic, say, Trump care, whatever it might be, the press would be all over it. But these are progressives, so they will not be this tree falls in the woods, right? And I got this email from the AFL-CIO last week, or a week and a half ago or so. I told you that the Trump administration wants to do away with the fiduciary rule. The fiduciary rule is part of Dodd-Frank, and it says that if you go to an investment advisor, you see ads on TV for these people, right? Come to us and we'll invest your money for you. If you go to an investment advisor and give them your life savings and say, go invest these on my behalf, without the fiduciary rule, they can totally rip you off. They can put your life savings in things that produce a 3% return but pay them a 5% commission, and your life savings go down and their revenue goes up. And they don't even have to tell you they're doing that. With the fiduciary rule, they do have to tell you. That's what a fiduciary is a financially responsible party. With the fiduciary rule, they have to let you know what's going on. And the AFL-CIO sent out this email today. Right now, Wall Street bankers are aggressively fighting to delay and ultimately kill the fiduciary rule. It has not yet been put into place. It was supposed to start. The Trump administration postponed it. This was put into place during the Obama administration. Right now, if you go into a financial advisor, they can rip you off and you'll never even know it. And the Republicans want to keep it that way. And the Democrats want this fiduciary rule to be put into place. The Republicans say, oh, my God, it's a rule. This is regulation. This is job-killing regulations. And again, quoting from the AFL-CIO's email, right now, Wall Street bankers are aggressively fighting to delay and ultimately kill this rule. The Department of Labor already has said it wants to delay the rule. And as we all know in D.C., delay is code for killing something. The Department of Labor is taking public comments on this rule, and we need to flood the department with comments in support of the rule before the deadline of Friday, March 17th. That's day after tomorrow. So I can't give you the click here because this is in an email, but I'm guessing that AFLCIO.org, that there has to be a link through this on their website. I mean, they're pretty much. I sure hope so. On how to weigh in over at the Labor Department on the fiduciary rule, because this is actually a big deal. So anyhow, I've got a few more things in the news. Oh, and a couple of Russian spies and a couple of Russian hackers got busted for hacking Yahoo 2 years ago. The FBI all over this. So on it goes. We'll be back in just a minute.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And so far, it's looking like Trump Tower has not been hacked, but Kellyanne, still looking out for her microwave. And welcome back. Let's see, here's Stephen in Deming, Washington. Hey, Stephen, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Well, first up, thank you, Tom, for taking my call. I've got
pleasure.
two things. One real quick. I just picked up off the internet. I believe it's two representatives that have come up, presented a bill, H.R. 676, that is a single-payer bill.
Yeah, John Conyers has been introducing this every year for more than a decade. It always has the same number. It's always H.R. 676. And it's just a couple of pages long, and it basically just lowers the Medicare eligibility age to 0.
I see. Well, I'm saying Yahoo, and I'm hoping everybody will give a call to their representatives and really press them hard to do this. This may be our best chance to get something like this seriously considered.
Yeah, I totally agree, and what's so funny is that this. Trump has painted himself into a corner. He said, I'm going to give you more insurance at a lower cost, and we're going to extend it to everybody in the country. Now, that's entirely doable. But the only way you can do that is either create, the equivalent of a Veterans Administration across the country or the equivalent of the British National Health Service. In other words, socialize or nationalize our hospitals and pharmaceutical companies. or to go with single-payer health care and let everybody buy into Medicare. And if you do that latter, then Donald Trump will have accomplished his campaign promises. And I'm just waiting for this Ryan Care thing to go down in flames. I don't know. You think, Stephen, that they're going to roll this out?
I beg pardon?
Oh, you wanted to talk about worker-owned businesses.
Yes, the second thing, just a little bit of prelude. I keep hearing, we all keep hearing that we need to divest from the big corporations, from the 17 banks that are financing DAPL, and put our stock market money and hedge fund money into green organizations, and that's a don't. That's an anti. Well, there's a pro. There's an idea that I feel really excited about, and I think it could make a monster change for our country here. I'm sure you're familiar with the Organization of Junior Achievement. Yeah.
I'm not sure. It sounds familiar from my childhood, but I don't know.
Exactly. This was an organization.
We have about 30 seconds, Stephen, by the way.
Okay, they came into high schools, and whoever wanted to join got together. You sat down in a group, brainstormed up an idea for a product they wanted to make, had an adult who was from the Small Business Administration or whatever help them set up a business plan, start manufacturing, have their own marketing and retailing out and everything, and basically started a business. Mm-hmm. Well, we can do that we can create a senior achievement. We've got seniors that need money and have a lot of time. We could have thousands and thousands of senior achievements starting their own worker-owned businesses from the ground up.
Yeah, first we need to make sure that everybody in the country has health care. But you're talking about with people over 65 who have Medicare?
I'm talking about people starting their own business.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, Stephen, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be right back.
This year's election results have generated fear, sadness, and despair.
In the days and months ahead,
our democracy may face a crisis of historic proportions.
But there is good news.
There is good news.
There is good news. Thousands of people are stepping forward in solidarity,
resistance,
and resolve.
We join them.
We join them.
We join them.
In standing with the most vulnerable communities among us.
Those most likely to be targeted by new restrictions and policies.
We will tell their stories here.
Here
on Free Speech TV.
We will lift their voices here
on Free Speech TV.
In the difficult times ahead, know that we will be with you 24 hours a day,
every day.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
There are millions of us
raising our voices and hearts together as one.
We've got your back.
We got your back.
Free Speech TV's got your back.
The revolution is in progress.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. A few other things. Donald Trump to open a review of U.S. fuel efficiency standards. Ed Crook's writing about this in the Financial Times today. It's like they're trying to kill the electric car, basically. I told you last week the story of being in California and visiting a couple of friends of mine who have 2 electric cars. One of them was an electric Fiat. And I was like, I'd never seen an electric Fiat. And they were like, they only sell them in California. And I'm like, why? And they're because they need to meet their fleet fuel efficiency standards. And they can't do that just with gas cars. And so they're marketing electric cars basically at break even to maintain their fuel efficiency standards. And it's like, whoa, how cool is that? And it creates jobs. It does all kinds of stuff. But the White House is, of course, beholden to the fossil fuel industry. And they're saying, oh, no, we don't. So the Trump administration's plans to reopen the review have been widely reported in recent days. The Obama administration estimate that the
It coincides with the new administration move, which had been sought by the large car manufacturers, coincides with a visit by the president to Michigan to meet industry executives and workers. Right. And the last month, the Auto Alliance, which represents large manufacturers, wrote to Scott Pruitt, the new head of the EPA, the guy who's a wholly owned subsidiary of Koch Industries, arguing, or at least was at one time, arguing that there was great uncertainty regarding the feasibility of future standards and warning that 1 million jobs could be lost if the rules are still in place. Right. This is, jobs is the new excuse for absolutely everything. Oh, and we've got, boy, do we have a crazy alert today. Here's our crazy alert.
And now for something completely crazy.
You so crazy.
You're crazy.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Well,
it's crazy.
Oh,
something new for Kellyanne to put on her list to be paranoid about, along with her microwave. The makers of WeVibe, a line of vibrators that can be paired with an app for remote control use, have reached a $3.75 million class action settlement with users. Camila Domins writes for NPR. Is $3.75 million class action settlement with users following allegations that the company was collecting data on when and how the sex toy was used. Yes, your vibrator can spy on you, and does. And the vibrator company just paid $3 million to outraged customers who were spied on by their vibrator. This is disconcerting. Meanwhile, campaign finance rules. Laura McCauley wrote this fascinating piece over at Common Dreams, commondreams.org, titled "How the Supreme Court Campaign Finance Rulings Distorted U.S. Democracy." Did you know that we spent almost $3 billion in the last election? Not we. Oligarchs, billionaires, and big corporations spent almost $3 billion in the last election. You and I, we probably spent a few $100 million at the most. But $3 billion? And this is, Demos just published this Court Cash 2016 election money resulting directly from Supreme Court rulings. And they talk about Buckley and Colorado Republican Federal Campaign Committee and Citizens United. And I tell you about these things all the time. The 77% of spending in competitive races now is $649 is coming via these channels for big money that have been established by the Supreme Court. No legislature ever said money should be considered speech and corporations should be considered people. No president has ever said that. Presidents literally, from Thomas Jefferson to Barack Obama, have pushed back against that idea. And yet the Supreme Court invented this law, and here we are stuck with it, so that billionaires could run our country. And, Scalia and Thomas went out and, visited with the Koch brothers at one of their Koch retreats. And this is incredible. Here we are.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Isn't it time for some reasonable campaign finance limits? Happy Ides of March. We'll be back with your calls after this. And welcome back. Free Speech TV is in its fundraising drive. I believe the overall goal is about $300,000. Typically, our show raises a good chunk of that, sometimes as much as half, and which would be $150,000, which over 15 days, 3 weeks of fundraising drive would be $10,000 a day. And Monday we hit 4,000, and yesterday we hit 6,000. So we're falling behind. Well, we're getting better here, but we need to make up what we've lost, and we need to catch up, and we need your help because we've got to pay the bills. We've got to keep this network running. We've got to keep the lights on. We've got to keep the programs flowing, and we need to keep
reaching out to new people and saying, hey, there's actual progressive programming going on, on Dish Network, on DirecTV, on cable systems all around the country, and you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on Hulu, you can watch it on, well, I know that they're working on Apple TV. They don't have that yet. I think that Hulu has cut a deal with Free Speech TV. If not, it's about to. I mean, it's just like all kinds of cool stuff here. And a lot of great ways that people can find this show and find this network. But we've got to keep it going. And that means we need you to call 877-378-8669 right now and make a contribution to support Free Speech TV. Independent media, I mean, genuinely independent media, media that's not owned by a giant conglomerate, media that is not dancing to the tunes of giant pharma or oil or whatever advertisers, is a real rare thing. I mean, we used to think that our independent media was NPR. And then, during the Reagan administration, they started cutting back the funding to it to the point now where only 7% of their revenue is coming from the federal government. And the majority of it is being made up now with corporate contributions. Have you noticed that they no longer do investigative reporting? They no longer call out companies for their Instead, they're putting on regularly people from Heritage and American Enterprise. These are the so-called think tanks that are just really PR front groups for big corporations and the billionaires that they create. So independent media in the United States is pretty much down to here, to Free Speech TV. It's pretty spooky when you think about it. But we need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help to make this independent television network strong, to make it grow, to help it grow. Well, and right now, first, we've just got to pay the bills for the next quarter. So please call now. If with a $60 gift, we will send you a Free Speech TV water bottle. That's with a $60 gift. With a $120 gift, we'll send you a copy of Sarah Van Gelder's new book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through the New America by Sarah Van Gelder. She's the publisher, or the editor of Yes Magazine. And this is a 12,000-mile journey that she took, and she chronicles her story through it. With a $150 contribution, you get the Revolution Where You Live book and the DVD of The Spirit of Standing Rock, which is a pretty remarkable piece of video. That's with $150. With $240, you get that Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, a Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. That's all with $240. With $360, and notice all of these are divisible by 12, so that could be, $30 a month, $240 could be $20 a month. With a $360 gift, you get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, and this Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, you're welcome to come to Washington, D.C., and I will be pleased to buy you lunch, and we can sit and talk, and typically we'll get a few people together and we'll have a little pizza party or whatever the consensus is that people would like to eat. So there's a great place around the corner that has actually gluten-free crusts, and I can get a vegan pizza there. But there's a Thai restaurant over here. There's a bunch of stuff. So Ethiopian right downstairs. DC is a wonderful city for food and for tourism. So come to DC, make a $1,000 gift, and have a pizza party with us. But the main thing is helping Free Speech TV keep on going. And to that, Free Speech TV needs your help now. We are behind on our goal for the Monday and Tuesday. And, we haven't really kind of hit our stride here. We really need to raise $10,000 today. And, that's just 100 donations at $100 a piece, I believe, right? Yeah. Or 50 donations at $200 a piece. I mean, that's not an overwhelming goal. We should be able to do that if you will call now and make a contribution. 877-378-8669. This is serious stuff. These are serious times. And we really need independent media in the United States right now to keep people awake and to help people, to be a meeting place, essentially. That's here. Thanks so much for your help. Call now, please.
Hey, want to hear that clip again? Subscribe to the Thom Hartmann Program on YouTube to see all your favorite show highlights. All the important stories we cover and the issues we care about are at HartmanReport.com. Members of our community can comment and join the conversation. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and John in Jeffersonville, Ohio. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, Tom, my birthday's today. I'm 66 years old.
Well, happy birthday, John.
I'm recovering from stage 4 cancer, so this thing about the healthcare thing is really, really important. But that's not what I called about. What I called about is and by the way, I've been watching you for over a decade, and I'm on Free Speech TV right now, and I agree with most everything you say. But the Democratic Party is in possession of something that is so powerful that when it was unleashed, it took the presidency that was elected 4 times under FDR. And for the reason, why they don't go back to the policies that FDR, spoke of and what he believed in is just absolutely beyond me, And one of the things that when I discuss things with people that, they say there's no difference between the parties. And my position is that if we did go back those policies, we might lose a Joe Manchin or a Tester. That is possible. But once people could actually see the difference between the parties, I think a lot of these independents and a lot of these quote-unquote Republicans would come home, and I think that we could restore the middle class and straighten things out. What's your thoughts?
I generally agree with you, John. I think that the strategy of trying to win I think, first of all, I think this whole idea of red states, blue states, purple states is nonsense. It has to do with, in large part, structural stuff, how the states are gerrymandered, and how how effective both parties are at getting people out to vote. There is no state in the union that doesn't have a large cohort of progressives, as Bernie proved, traveling around the country. And he's now just doing red states. And I think that that's an absolutely brilliant strategy, and the Democratic Party should pursue it even farther and go after the red states. And yeah, we need FDR Democrats. I'm completely with you. That's why I keep encouraging people who hold the values of FDR and of LBJ, setting aside the Vietnam War. But the Great Society and the New Deal. And for that matter, Teddy Roosevelt. He used to be Republicans, right? The Square Deal.
Right.
People who hold those values need to get inside the party, and whether they're running for public office or whether they're going to become precinct committee people and write the party plank and the platform and the planks in the platform and choose who's going to run in the primaries. But this goes back to Harry Truman in 1947 saying, that when people are presented with a choice between a Democrat who behaves like a Republican or a real Republican, they'll choose the real Republican. And he was warning Democrats in his party not to stray from, what FDR had set up. But what FDR had set up was fundamentally not anti-corporate, but it so tightly regulated corporate behavior that it made it hard for Democrats to get money out of corporations. And so, the Democratic Party was largely being supported at that point in time by unions. Unions, had an absolute heyday in the late 30s through the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, and then Reagan came along and went after the unions in '81, starting with Patco, and we saw union representation in the United States from 1981. It was at a high. Actually, probably in the late 70s, 78, 79, but 81, was around 25%. It had been as high as almost 30%. And then we saw that drop down to, by the end of the first Bush administration, the Bush the Elder, which was really the tail end of the Reagan administration, 12 years of Reagan. It was down around, 14, 15%. It's at 6.5%, 7% now. And so the Democrats, needed to go looking for money. And this is what got us where we are here. And they needed to go looking for money because of the Supreme Court decision. And so, what we really need to do is overturn that Supreme Court decision and say, sorry, everybody's on a level playing field here, and let the truth win rather than whoever's got the billionaires' dollars. John, thanks for the call. It's a serious issue. Mike in Clear Lake, California, listening on KZXY. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Good morning. My question is, I'm troubled by the fact that I haven't heard a single journalist, an NPR program, any of the Times or Post or anybody asking the question, what are the people in Congress, what are the people in the state legislatures that are talking about changing the medical plans for the taxpayers of this country, who all apparently have Cadillac plan health care from the benefit of the taxes that we pay? What are they willing to give up? How come nobody's asking that question of them?
Yeah. Well, historically, legislators got basically a good insurance policy. When Obamacare was passed, the Republicans demanded that the Democrats include or vote for, and they did, a rider that says that all members of Congress have to take Obamacare. So they're all on a bronze, silver, or gold plan here in Washington, D.C., if they're in D.C., and they're getting their health care that way. But it's coming from a private health insurance company, and these are pretty reasonable plans. And Obamacare set a fairly high threshold. You can, go up to a $5,000 deductible, but that's if you go down to a bronze plan. But it covers a lot of things and does it very well. So, no more subprime health insurance policies. But, what Congress is going to do if they blow up the Affordable Care Act, God only knows. I guarantee you, though, that they will figure out a way to protect themselves. So your point is well taken, Mike. Maybe the Democrats should start yelling that if you're gonna roll out Trump care and destroy Medicaid and all this other stuff, then every member of Congress needs to get their health insurance through Medicaid. Mike, thanks for the call. George in Chicago, listening to WCPT. Hey, George, what's up?
Well, Tom, I was wondering on the irony of the same auto companies that were saved from economic destruction by President Obama and the Democratic Party when they had the majority in both houses of Congress. And the Republicans were actively saying that they should just be allowed to go bankrupt.
Right.
And because of President Obama and the Democrats, the auto companies are financially sound, basically, and productive, and have good market share today. And yet the very sensible rules and regulations for fuel economy that the future of our planet depends on don't mean anything to them when they have the possibility of more revenue if they can get rid of them.
Right.
And so it's like, the old saying is that power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, money and power are fungible, so
right.
Money corrupts too. And it's like, okay, Obama's gone. We don't have to worry about him. We don't have to be grateful that he saved us. Screw him. It's back to the races with another corporate president. We'll make a ton of money for our retirement.
Right. Yeah, no, it's an excellent point, George. And it's the rot, the corruption in our system that needs to be corrected by amending the Constitution to say corporations are not people and money is not speech. Then with a level playing field, there's no doubt in my mind that we would return to a more egalitarian democracy. Thanks a lot for the call. David in Fallbrook, California. Hey, David, what's up?
Hey, I wanted to comment on the getting rid of the fiduciary rule.
Yeah.
I especially have to say this to all conservatives and Republicans in your audience. When you take your car to a car mechanic, you naturally expect them to do what's best for the car. When you go to a lawyer to represent you, you naturally expect your lawyer to do what's best for you because you are their client. When you go to a doctor, you expect the surgeon, the doctor, or whatever, to do what's best for your health. When we go to a financial expert, it is natural and normal and sane to expect them to do what's best for our finances. And I really want people to understand that metaphor.
Yeah, and tragically, that's not the case. If you go to a car service place, There's actually regulations over that, especially if they're making representations, like it's a dealership. There are certain certification standards, and they do have to operate in your best interest. Lawyers have to operate in your best interest. Doctors have to operate in your best interest.
Right.
But financial advisors, no, they are totally free to completely lie to you and rip you off right now. If you've got an investment advisor, you might be being ripped off and not even know it. And the investment advisor industry and the banks that it's part of are fighting this fiduciary rule like there's no tomorrow, because they want to continue to feel free to rip you off. And the average person who puts $100,000 in an IRA over a 30-year, the average fees in an IRA over a 30-year period can be over $100,000. I mean, it's nuts, the amount of money that they can take out. So.
Yeah, and they want to play both sides. If you put your money in your own bank account, you expect it to be there,
right,
and not, gambled away on Wall Street, or the same with your financial advisor.
Yep, absolutely. It's an incredible problem. David, thank you for the call. Thanks for listening to SiriusXM Progress. We'll be back with more of your calls after this. At the top of the hour, I think Charles Sauer is going to be here with us. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with your calls right after this. And welcome back. Carol, watching Free Speech TV in Oakland, California. Hey, Carol, what's on your mind today? Carol?
Yes, hi.
Hey, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'm listening from Oakland, California.
Okay. What's on your mind?
Well, you were mentioning the class action suit, and I want to warn everyone that they're trying to pass these stealth bills. And one of them is to kill the class action possibility of a lawsuit.
Right.
Which would lose huge powers for, the average person or a business. It's not even business friendly.
Yep.
So you've mentioned that, or?
I have not mentioned it. Thank you for pointing it out, Carol. This is, by the way, an effort that's been going on for decades. And the Supreme Court has somewhat weakened the ability to do class action lawsuits. But they're not totally dead. And you're right. The Republicans want to kill them altogether.
Yeah, so, people should really be alert to the fact that they're going to try and get these bills through on the sly.
Yeah.
And then the other one that's a similar kind of situation is they're limiting how much you can receive for malpractice.
Right. It's called tort reform.
So if a jury even gives somebody a really huge amount of money, the judge is going to have to say, well, I'm sorry, but there's a cap.
Right.
And it's very low.
In Texas, it's $250,000. No matter what gets done to you, if your doctor cuts off the wrong leg, performs malpractice, comes in and does surgery drunk, and you end up in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, the most you can get in Texas is $250,000.
Yeah, that's going to be across the country.
Oh, yeah. It's already in 15, 20 states. I mean, the Republicans have been pushing tort reform for the better part of 2 decades.
Yeah. So anyway, that's really the basic reason I'm calling.
Yeah, well, you did a very good job, Carol. Thanks for pointing those things out. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV. Megan in Trade, Tennessee. Hey, Megan, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I watch your program regularly.
Thank you.
Just had an idea, just 1-2 sentences. What if everybody in the country who is working, even people maybe who draw Social Security like myself, would pay a certain percentage, let's just make up a number, say 10% towards health care. And, if you make $10 an hour, you pay $1. If you make $100 an hour, you'll pay $10 towards health care. And all this goes in a big pot. And if you make, of course, $1 million, you also pay 10% towards health care, or it could be any other percentage, whatever they come up with. You think we could collect enough money to cover everybody? And it would be so easy if everybody just pays 10%.
Sure. What you're suggesting, Megan, is a flat tax for health care. And generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of flat taxes because they tend to penalize people in the lower income brackets, and leave relatively unscathed people in the upper income brackets. I'd rather see a progressive income tax where people who are making below the poverty line don't pay anything into it, and people who are making, over a couple $100,000 a year are paying a larger percentage of their income. Because they're benefiting more from a healthy society. They're benefiting monetarily, and they're heavier users of society's things of value, whether it's courts or whatever it may be. But I think that the idea is a brilliant one, and it's basically what Bernie Sanders was proposing was, let's put together basically a tax on income and combine it with ending the state tax, and we'll use these to fund a healthcare system, and it would work. Megan, thank you for the call. We'll be back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Raymond in Williamston, Michigan. Hey, Raymond, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Hi. Well, I was listening to the guy call in about the auto industry and being a retired auto worker. I can tell you that General Motors, all auto industries, all the emissions stuff is planned it's already engineered for the next 10 years probably.
Right.
I mean, they look that far ahead because it takes that long to get everything put together, to develop it and engineer it.
Right. The thing that changes, Raymond, is the product mix. And the larger cars that produce more emissions are more profitable for them than the smaller cars that produce less. And so they would rather sell those. They'd rather sell more of them. But in order to hit the emission standards levels, if they're manufacturing and selling large cars that have lousy emission standards, then they've also got to, start promoting and selling smaller, more fuel-efficient cars, and particularly electric and hybrid cars. And if they can do away with the fuel emission standards, then these auto companies can sell more of their most profitable products. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. They could drop the Spark because they're not selling a lot of them, and they're basically giving them away to meet emission standards for
That's
all
right.
the Arcadias and Cadillacs that they sell.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so, the fossil fuel industry and the auto industry look at these emission standards as things that are restraining their profits. The rest of us look at these standards as something that is going to reduce the number of people who get cancer, it's going to reduce the number of people who get asthma, and it's going to reduce the global warming that is threatening all of us with wild, extreme weather events constantly everywhere, and it's happening all over. And so it's the question, which is more important, the planet or the profits? And specifically the profits to two industries, not the profits to you and me. And, very well said. Raymond, thanks for the call, and thanks for laying that out. Brian in Rosemount, Minnesota. Hey, Brian, what's on your mind?
I just read this morning in the Quartz News in an article entitled "Why the Republicans Are in Such a Hurry to Pass the American Health Care Act." And in that article, it states that the federal government has not had to borrow any money to fund Obamacare yet.
Right.
And if that's true, then the Republicans are doing what they have always done, is they are true to their heritage as carpetbaggers.
Well, no money has been borrowed to fund Obamacare because Obamacare had some substantial taxes on very rich people that paid for all of these added benefits and subsidies for working poor and middle-income people. There's a 3.9% addition to the capital gains tax, so the people who make their money with money rather than with the sweat of their brow. If you make your money with the sweat of your brow or your mind, if you take a paycheck, you can pay up to 39.5% income tax. But if you make your money using money, if you're an investor, the maximum income tax is 20% right now. And so but the Obamacare legislation raised that to 23.9%. Plus, if you make over $250,000 a year, there's an additional 0.9% tax on all of the money that you earn after that $250,000 to help pay for Obamacare. And these two taxes
add up to hundreds of billions of dollars a year. And that's what the Republicans want to do away with. They want to give the top 1% a $600 billion tax cut. And while they're cutting $1.2 trillion out of Medicare, Medicaid, and Obamacare. This is on the one hand a giant tax cut for the donor, the Republican donor class, and on the other hand, they get to kick in the teeth the working poor, which is something the Republicans just like. This is sport for them. So yeah, spot on, Brian. Thank you, Mike in Seattle. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Good morning, Tom. Well, I was wondering if we could talk about risk corridors again. I just caught the tail end of your caller a couple of days ago. How that affected? Apparently, they were taken away. How that affected what's going on now?
Right. In 2015, the risk corridor funding was supposed to be 2.5 plus. It was $2.9 billion. And Marco Rubio cut that down to $400 million and bragged to the New York Times that he had saved the taxpayers $2.5 billion, which arguably he had. But what he did was he threw the entire healthcare market into turmoil. Smaller health insurance companies, and there were a number of them, nonprofit ones in particular, just all went out of business. And the big health insurance companies that had enough money to make it through, they said, either we're going to raise our rates or we're going to pull out of marketplaces, and they did both. And you'll see an article I wrote about this over at Alternet sometime in the next few hours. I've already tweeted it out.
And so, Tom, this is when the White House budget director was on the Sunday morning talks. When he talks about in South Carolina where he was, that there was only one company remaining.
That's right. They were down
to. That's probably what happened. Then.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. And if you just plug the words risk corridors and Marco Rubio into a search engine, and one of the first things that'll come up is a New York Times article by Robert Pear from October or November, I guess it was November of 2015, excuse me, year and a half ago, and in which he's quoting Marco Rubio, bragging about this, and they talk about how this is, setting it up in October of 2016, which is the beginning of the next fiscal year. It was even worse, and that was when the health insurance companies would be submitting their bills for reimbursement, and they couldn't. And so I'm going to sneeze, hang. Excuse me. And so if you look at it, pardon me, when I was writing the article, I went into Google search and I did a time-limited search from October 1st to October 31st of 2016. This is the 4 of the 6 weeks before the election. And there were thousands of articles about how Obamacare premiums were going up and companies were pulling out of the plans. And it was all in October of last year. And why? Because that was the beginning of the fiscal year. That was the health insurance companies, their subsidies had gone through the end of September. And now we're in a new federal fiscal year, and there was no money for them. And so they had to jack up their prices. And Rubio knew this, the Republicans knew this. They're the ones who sabotaged Obamacare. And it would be fairly easy to put those risk corridors back and get the insurance companies back in the game if we wanted to salvage Obamacare, and which is better than nothing. I mean, I'd prefer to see single payer, but the Republican damage to this is amazing. Mike, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be back. Charles Sauer is going to be with us. We're going to have an interesting conversation right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit freespeechbeets.com. And welcome back. Free Speech TV is in its fundraising drive. I believe the overall goal is about $300,000. Typically, our show raises a good chunk of that, sometimes as much as half, and which would be $150,000, which over 15 days, 3 weeks of fundraising drive would be $10,000 a day. And Monday we hit 4,000, and yesterday we hit 6,000. So we're falling behind. Well, we're getting better here, but we need to make up what we've lost, and we need to catch up, and we need your help because we've got to pay the bills. We've got to keep this network running. We've got to keep the lights on. We've got to keep the programs flowing, and we need to keep reaching out to new people and saying, hey, there's actual progressive programming going on, on Dish Network, on DirecTV, on cable systems all around the country, and you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on, well, I know that they're working on Apple TV. They don't have that yet. I think that Hulu has cut a deal with Free Speech TV. If not, it's about to. I mean, there's just like all kinds of cool stuff here and a lot of great ways that people can find this show and find this network. But we've got to keep it going. And that means we need you to call 877-378-8669 right now and make a contribution to support Free Speech TV. Independent media. I mean, genuinely independent media, media that's not owned by a giant conglomerate, media that is not dancing to the tunes of giant pharma or oil or whatever advertisers, is a real rare thing. I mean, we used to think that our independent media was NPR. And then, during the Reagan administration, they started cutting back the funding to it to the point now where only 7% of their revenue is coming from the federal government. And the majority of it is being made up now with corporate contributions. Have you noticed that they no longer do investigative reporting? They no longer call out companies for their Instead, they're putting on regularly people from Heritage and American Enterprise. These are the so-called think tanks that are just really PR front groups for big corporations and the billionaires that they create. So independent media in the United States is pretty much down to here, to Free Speech TV. It's pretty spooky when you think about it. But, we need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help to make this independent television network strong, to make it grow, to help it grow. Well, and right now, first, we've just got to pay the bills for the next quarter. So please call now. If with a $60 gift, we will send you a Free Speech TV water bottle. That's with a $60 gift. With a $120 gift, we'll send you a copy of Sarah Van Gelder's new book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through the New America by Sarah Van Gelder. She's the publisher, or the editor of Yes Magazine. And this is a 12,000-mile journey that she took, and she chronicles her story through it. With a $150 contribution, you get the Revolution Where You Live book and the DVD of The Spirit of Standing Rock, which is a pretty remarkable piece of video. That's with $150. With $240, you get that Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, a Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. That's all with $240. With $360, and notice all of these are divisible by 12, so that could be, $30 a month, $240 could be $20 a month. With a $360 gift,
You get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, and this Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, you're welcome to come to Washington, D.C., and I will be pleased to buy you lunch. And we can sit and talk, and typically we'll get a few people together and we'll have a little pizza party or whatever the consensus is that people would like to eat. So there's a great place around the corner that has actually gluten-free crusts, and I can get a vegan pizza there. But there's a Thai restaurant over here. There's a bunch of stuff. So Ethiopian right downstairs. D.C. is a wonderful city for food and for tourism. So come to D.C., make a $1,000 gift, and have a pizza party with us. But the main thing is helping Free Speech TV keep on going. And to that, Free Speech TV needs your help now. We are behind on our goal for the Monday and Tuesday. And, we haven't really kind of hit our stride here. We really need to raise $10,000 today. And, that's just 100 donations at $100 a piece, I believe, right? Yeah. Or 50 donations at $200 a piece. I mean, that's not an overwhelming goal. We should be able to do that if you will call now and make a contribution. 877-378-8669. This is serious stuff. These are serious times. And we really need independent media in the United States right now to keep people awake and to help people, to be a meeting place, essentially. That's here. Thanks so much for your help. Call now, please. Back from the brink.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you in Washington, D.C., and in the studio with me is Charles Sauer. He is the libertarian economist and president of the Market Institute. MarketInstitute.org is the website. You can tweet him at Market Institute or at Charles Sauer. Sauer is S-A-U-E-R. As in Sig Sauer. You're not named after the gun manufacturer, are you?
I am not named after the gun manufacturer, but that would be another discussion, I'm sure. But that's I tell people you pronounce it sweet and sour, but the gun is how you spell it.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So, Charles, Donald Trump today is, in fact, he's in Michigan. His plane just landed a little bit ago, and so the press, of course, had to follow it like O.J. Simpson's car. But he's going to order a reopening of a review into these federal fuel economy standards and emission standards. And, well, I'll just read this. This is the first sentence of this article in today's Financial Times by Ed Crooks in New York 6 hours ago. Donald Trump will, on Wednesday, order the reopening of a review of future fuel economy and emission standards for U.S. cars in a move that could slow down development of electric vehicles and new efficiency technologies. Now, I will give you that this is a market distortion.
Yep.
Absolutely. There are, and frankly, there are very few markets that are not distorted.
In fact, I'll give you that.
I can't think of any. In fact, I can't think of any market in the United States that's not distorted outside of, if you're my next door neighbor and we agree to, you wash my car, I'll mow your lawn. I mean, that's a relatively undistorted market, but that's about it. But isn't it appropriate for we the people collectively, when we see a threat to the quality of our life or our survival, either as a nation or as a species, when we see that threat, isn't it appropriate for us to distort markets so that those markets work largely still to the benefit of the people who own the markets? GM is still going to make a profit, but they also work to the benefit of society. What's wrong with that?
Well, I guess this is one of those arguments that I find really it's entertaining to watch the left on, right? Because what Trump is doing is, first off, he's ending a midnight regulation from the Obama administration. They announced in I think middle of 2016, that the 2017 regs were going to come out in the middle of 2017. Hillary didn't win, so they bumped it up to November. So this is just rolling back something that Obama rushed through. But what's interesting about the left on this is by rolling back the regulations, it means that they will keep the price of cars down, which means that gasoline-run cars will sell more often. And so by doing this, Trump is actually making Detroit great again. He's keeping jobs where they are instead of limiting jobs. So,
hang on just a second, Charles. If you're making a 6,000-pound Chevy Suburban, or you're making a 2,000-pound Chevy Volt, they both require roughly the same number of workers to manufacture. It's an assembly line's an assembly line, and it's not like but the Chevy Suburban has a lot more steel in it, a lot more weight, a lot more mass, and it's therefore much more expensive. So, which means it's also more profitable. So General Motors can make more money on the Suburban than they do on the Volt, and they do. And that's really what this is all about. I mean, this is why the car manufacturers don't want these efficiency standards, because they want to sell the more expensive vehicles and the larger vehicles, which happen to consume more fuel. And I'll give you that too. But again, you haven't answered my question. If we, this is kind of an existential question, Charles. If we agree that there are times when government should intervene in marketplaces for the benefit of society or of the country, then the question is, what are the marketplaces and what are the limits on that intervention? Okay. On the other hand, maybe we don't even agree that government should intervene in marketplaces.
I don't agree that the government should intervene in marketplaces, but where I will agree is that marketplaces have been intervened upon. And so we can have a discussion about this. But the fact is, if you look at what scientists talk, if they give you a list of what is going to help the environment or mitigate the effects of climate change, ruining the economy and keeping the single mother away from buying a car or taking away jobs from Detroit is at the bottom of their list. The scientists are pro-mitigation, building flood walls, getting nets.
Those are canards.
Mosquito nets.
Those are nonsensical arguments. To say that if General Motors has to manufacture small cars to meet their fleet standards and sell them instead of large, that's not going to cost anybody any jobs. That's not going to hurt any single mothers.
So we come back to
these folks out of your hat.
We come back to the economics that you used. It's liberal economics at its best. You hold what you want constant, and you don't hold the other things that you need constant. So the fact is that demand changes. So not only does the price change or the mix of cars change, but as price goes up, if the price goes up a couple of $1,000s on a Chevy Volt size car or class of car, the fact is that demand decreases for that.
Of course, I'm not asserting anything other than.
Well, you did. You asserted that the workers stay the same. You asserted that just because a car is more expensive, that there's not less being sold or there's not less workers being needed. But if a car is more expensive, demand decreases, and therefore there's less cars demanded.
Well, yes and no. I mean, what is going on here is without these fuel standards, the demand simply shifts to larger cars. People are going to buy cars, right? But they're going to buy a Chevy Suburban instead of a Toyota Camry because hey, it's like there's this mythology in America that the big car is going to protect your family.
Well, then here's something we can agree on. We can remove energy subsidies to increase the price of gas. I mean, that's how you actually have competition in the market. And if you remove subsidies in the industry,
or put a carbon tax on carbon,
but you want a mandate that says that we have to sell things. I mean, this is where you and I disagree on intervention, and this is someplace where the government has intervened too much, and the fix isn't more intervention. The fix is less intervention.
If we agree, we being the people of the United States through their elected representatives, if we agree that it is not in our interest to be dependent on Saudi oil, it is not in our interest to have extremes of weather as a consequence of increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. If we agree that we don't want more cancers and more asthmas, which will result from more Chevy Suburbans being sold as opposed to more Chevy Volts. If we agree that all those things are good things, here's the thing. Your starting premise is that the marketplace should be involatile. It shouldn't be touched, right? Shouldn't be messed with. But the marketplace is an artificial thing itself. The marketplace was created by our government. We create the currency that's used as a medium of exchange in the marketplace. We create the laws that say this is an honest deal and this is fraud. We fund the police and the prosecutors who enforce those laws.
That is just 100% wrong.
The marketplace is a creation of government.
Markets appear without government. This is
of course they do, but not functional markets.
No, you just said that marketplaces are created by government. Look, there used to be villages of there's still villages of fishermen, but there's people that go out and fish, and there's people that make nets, and they figure out which one's better, and there's an instant market in that. You don't take the government to make that.
Right, but this isn't 5000 BC. If you and I are next door neighbors, and we go back to the example I gave earlier of I'll wash your car if you mow my lawn.
Yep.
What happens if I'm washing your car and I put a giant dent in it or I smash the windshield? And what happens if on top of that, you know that I did it because I really wasn't paying attention, or because I'm some kind of a jerk and I was just trying to provoke
So this is what the government's role.
There's the government's role.
The government's role is not the creation of the market. The government's role is to create an efficient market. So instead of you and I having to fight out every single dent, bump, scratch, or wrongdoing, we can have the government be an arbiter of that. But the government's job is not to create the market. And that's where, since the market's going to be there.
Markets don't exist without government.
Markets do exist without government. The fishing village, 5000 BC, had the market that existed.
And I guarantee you that within a year of and I've actually been to Corral in Peru, which is the oldest mother city, the oldest city where people went from being hunter-gatherers to being city dwellers in the world, that is still intact. It was covered with sand for 5,000 years. I was there with Bruce Shady, the archaeologist and anthropologist who's excavating it. And it's amazing. And they found just, 30 miles over on the coast of Peru, there were all these people fishing sardines. It's exactly what you were talking about. And the people in Corral were growing cotton and they were making nets. And I've handled those nets. I can show you pictures of these, 7,000-year-old nets, 9,000-year-old nets. And they had a system of keeping track that was ropes with little knots tied in them. It was a currency.
Yep.
It was created by the government of Corral. There had to be an independent arbiter of what is the currency. Their currency happened to be shells and knots, but you had a government intervene as soon as the market was created, because you can't have a functional market without a third party who's an impartial,
it merely
referee.
makes it more efficient. It's something that people will elect for. But that doesn't mean, if we pull it back into modern times, it doesn't mean that because there's a wrong in the system, because there's a distortion in the market, that we need to add another distortion into it. The government is there to make things more efficient, and adding more and more distortions is not making it more efficient.
I'm not talking about efficiency here. I'm talking about the government protecting the interests of its citizens.
I know you're not. You're talking about making a car more expensive for a single mother. You're talking about jobs being lost from Detroit. You're talking about making it so that the economy and GDP grows slower. I understand that.
Making better cars is going to take more employees. Somebody's going to have to design it. Somebody's going to have to invent the new technologies.
That's not true. Look at Elon Musk's factory.
For businesses.
Elon Musk is doing everything he can, and I'm a supporter of this factory. I think it's great. But he's doing everything he can to minimize the number of employees in the factory.
Well, every company in the world is doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a given.
But it doesn't take more people to make those cars. In my economics, or the way that libertarians or the way economists view it, it creates an efficient market where now the people that would be employed can do something else.
But if we acknowledge that government is providing marketplaces and is doing what it can to make those marketplaces efficient, and one of the major efficiencies is having a stable currency, for example, or having a stable banking system that's well regulated. If we acknowledge all that, why is that market there? The market is there for the benefit of society, is it not? Isn't that why governments are formed? Isn't that what it says in the Declaration of Independence?
I guess I still come back to it's your point number 2, that the government creates the market. I mean, that's where I can't get past that point, because the government doesn't create the market. And if the government doesn't create the market...
No, the demand for marketplaces, I agree, exists independent of governments. But as soon as people get together and form a marketplace, just like as soon as
then it's the government's job to make it efficient.
It's just like, you know, as soon as people get together and say, let's play football, somebody's got to be the referee, unless everybody agrees that they're going to referee each other. But then you get a couple of teams that are very competitive and, you know, hey, that's holding. No, it's not holding.
Hey,
yes,
I've seen that on the mall playing softball.
Right, but somebody's got to be the referee. You've got to figure, in other words, you've got to have a government. You've got to have an arbiter. And what I'm saying is, shouldn't the government, if it's going to go to the trouble and expense of creating a marketplace, and it does, shouldn't it say, if we're going to distort this marketplace, we're only going to do it when it benefits the people of this country?
And
what's wrong with that?
I still disagree. But the fact is that what you're saying is that you want to do it for the environment, and I'm saying I want to protect the single mom.
I want to protect the single mom's little kid who's going to get asma.
The science on that has never worked out.
10,000 cases, 100,000 cases a year of asthma, 30 to 50,000 cases a year of cancer can be attributed to the burning of gasoline and diesel
It's
fuel.
actually untrue. There's been work that's been done on that, not by the fossil fuel industry.
I encourage you to simply, you can easily Google this, Charles. The closer you live to a freeway, the more likely you are to have both asthma and cancer. Nobody's disputing that, and that's because of auto emissions.
You're, we'll disagree on that one.
Yeah.
Again, Trump is trying to save jobs. Trump is trying
I don't buy it. He's trying to suck up to industry that supports Republicans. But anyhow, Charles Sauer, hang on just a second. We'll plug it all here.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
The website is marketinstitute.org. You can tweet Charles at Charles Sauer, S-A-U-E-R, or Market Institute at Market Institute. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
We'll be back. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And let me get to my call screening software here. Here we go. Ed, watching Free Speech TV in Klamath Falls, Oregon. Hey, Ed, what's on your mind?
Tom, I watched that interview with Kellyanne Conway when she mentioned microwaves, and I don't believe she was referencing ovens. She was talking about the various ways that the government spies on people, and one of the ways they do it is with microwave vans in New York City. They can look through your walls of your house and your cars and such.
Okay.
It would be more correct to call it millimeter wave technology, but the average person doesn't even understand what the word frequency means.
Right, much less what a millimeter is, or what a wave is. But, that's interesting. So you don't think that she was talking about the Internet of Things, because there are microwave ovens now, I believe, that can be wired into your house. Certainly, there are ones that can be wired into your house in ways that you can turn them on and off remotely. But you can just walk up to it and say, okay, cook this lasagna for 3 minutes, please, at 100% power, and it does it. I mean, I don't know if there is such a microwave, but I assume that there is, because there's other appliances that do exactly that. And I thought that's what she was talking about.
Well, just contextual. She was talking about the various ways that the government illegally spies on us, and microwave is, to an average person, millimeter wave, microwave is
right.
the same.
Okay. I didn't see the interview, so I'll have to check it out. Ed, thanks for that. I was unaware. John in Free Soil, Michigan. Hey, John, what's up?
Oh, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I was watching, of course, on television, the healthcare issue. And I just have to feel like, why should I cry my eyes out for someone who is making $100,000 and he's complaining that he has to pay $2,000 more for his insurance premium, as compared to someone who's working for $10,000 a year or $20,000 a year and wasn't even able to afford health insurance before.
Right.
Under Obamacare, they were able to get coverage.
That's correct.
And now they're talking about maybe with a new plan, maybe even 15 or 20 more million people will not afford coverage either.
Right.
So how can this be a step forward in this country?
Well, what the Republicans are proposing is not only not a step forward, and it's not, keeping us where we are. According to the Congressional Budget Office, by 2026, the number of uninsured people in the United States will be 9 million people more than it was in 2009 when Barack Obama was sworn into office. So this doesn't just take us back to where we were before Obamacare. This makes things substantially worse than they were before Obamacare. So,
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's beyond bizarre, John. It's just beyond bizarre, and I'm hopeful that the American people catch on to the fact that they are being conned with chump care. John, thanks for the call. Joel in Jacksonville, Alabama. Hey, we just have 15 seconds? Oh, my clock is totally screwed up. Joel, I'm going to put you on hold because I don't want to, give you 15 seconds to talk. But are you sure? Because my clock says it's 26 minutes after the hour. Oh, here we go. We're hitting the break. Amazing. Huh. Yeah, are you? Because my computer says it's 1:24. Something is weird. Oh, this is the rejoin break. Okay, we'll be right back. Stick around.
This year's election results have generated fear, sadness, and despair.
In the days and months ahead,
our democracy may face a crisis of historic proportions.
But there is good news.
There is good news.
There is good news. Thousands of people are stepping forward in solidarity,
resistance,
and resolve.
We join them.
We join them.
We join them.
In standing with the most vulnerable communities among us.
Those most likely to be targeted by new restrictions and policies.
We will tell their stories here.
Here
on Free Speech TV.
We will lift their voices here
on Free Speech TV.
In the difficult times ahead, know that we will be with you 24 hours a day,
every day.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
There are millions of us
raising our voices and hearts together as one.
We've got your back.
We got your back.
Free Speech TV's got your back.
The revolution is in progress.
Welcome back. Less than a minute. Dave, Joel, Sally, Reed, Olivia, and others, I'm going to pick you up on the other end of the break here at the bottom of the hour. I just have to share a quick story with you. Bernie Sanders wrote a piece for the New York Times on March 10th. This was 5 days ago, and it's probably still over there. And it's titled, Trump Should Avoid a Bad Zika Deal. And here's the amazing thing. And he's talking about, how we pay to develop these drugs. And this is just extraordinary. Millions of people in the United States and around the world will not be able to afford this new drug that stops Zika. American taxpayers have spent $1 billion developing this. And just HHS gave this company, Sanofi, $43 million to manufacture the virus that we developed. And now they're going to sell it back to us at absurd profits. Anyhow, Bernie's writing about it. You should check it out. We'll be back with your calls after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Free Speech TV is in its fundraising drive. I believe the overall goal is about $300,000. Typically, our show raises a good chunk of that, sometimes as much as half, and which would be $150,000, which over 15 days, 3 weeks of fundraising drive would be $10,000 a day. And Monday we hit 4,000, and yesterday we hit 6,000. So we're falling behind. Well, we're getting better here, but
we need to make up what we've lost, and we need to catch up, and we need your help. Because we've got to pay the bills. We've got to keep this network running. We've got to keep the lights on. We've got to keep the programs flowing, and we need to keep, reaching out to new people and saying, hey, there's actual progressive programming going on, on Dish Network, on DirecTV, on cable systems all around the country, and you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on, well, I know that they're working on Apple TV. They don't have that yet. I think that Hulu has cut a deal with Free Speech TV. If not, it's about to. I mean, it's just like all kinds of cool stuff here, and a lot of great ways that people can find this show and find this network. But we've got to keep it going. And that means we need you to call 877-378-8669 right now and make a contribution to support Free Speech TV. Independent media. I mean, genuinely independent media, media that's not owned by a giant conglomerate, media that is not dancing to the tunes of giant pharma or oil or whatever advertisers, is a real rare thing. I mean, we used to think that our independent media was NPR. And then, during the Reagan administration, they started cutting back the funding to it, to the point now where only 7% of their revenue is coming from the federal government. And the majority of it is being made up now with corporate contributions. Have you noticed that they no longer do investigative reporting? They no longer call out companies for their Instead, they're putting on regularly people from Heritage and American Enterprise. These are the so-called think tanks that are just really PR front groups for big corporations and the billionaires that they create. So independent media in the United States is pretty much down to here, to Free Speech TV. It's pretty spooky when you think about it. But, we need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help to make this independent television network strong, to make it grow, to help it grow. Well, and right now, first, we've just got to pay the bills for the next quarter. So please call now. If with a $60 gift, we will send you a Free Speech TV water bottle. That's with a $60 gift. With a $120 gift, we'll send you a copy of Sarah Van Gelder's new book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through the New America by Sarah Van Gelder. She's the publisher, or the editor of Yes Magazine. And this is a 12,000-mile journey that she took, and she chronicles her story through it. With a $150 contribution, you get the Revolution Where You Live book and the DVD of The Spirit of Standing Rock, which is a pretty remarkable piece of video. That's with $150. With $240, you get that Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, a Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. That's all with $240. With $360, and notice all of these are divisible by 12, so that could be, $30 a month, $240 could be $20 a month. With a $360 gift, you get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, and this Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, you're welcome to come to Washington, D.C., and I will be pleased to buy you lunch, and we can sit and talk, and typically we'll get a few people together and we'll have a little pizza party or whatever the consensus is that people would like to eat. So there's a great place around the corner that has actually gluten-free crusts, and I can get a vegan pizza there. But there's a Thai restaurant over here. There's a bunch of stuff. So Ethiopian right downstairs. D.C. is a wonderful city for food and for tourism. So come to D.C., make a $1,000 gift, and have a pizza party with us. But the main thing is helping Free Speech TV keep on going. And to that, Free Speech TV needs your help now. We are behind on our goal for the Monday and Tuesday. And, we haven't really kind of hit our stride here. We really need to raise $10,000 today. And, that's just 100 donations at $100 a piece, I believe, right? Yeah. Or 50 donations at $200 a piece. I mean, that's not an overwhelming goal. We should be able to do that if you will call now and make a contribution. 877-378-8669. This is serious time. This is serious stuff. These are serious times. And we really need independent media in the United States right now to keep people awake and to help people, to be a meeting place, essentially. That's here. Thanks so much for your help. Call now, please.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Mark in Denver, Colorado. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good. What's up?
I just had 2 points to make. You were just talking to a caller about the free market and stuff like that, and I think one of the things that you touched on but should be pushed even further is just the fact that, if we want a truly free market, then we should eliminate the oil subsidies. And then the price of gas will go up to $5 or $6 a gallon, and that'll dictate what types of cars people drive.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And frankly, I think that we should be having the fossil fuel companies pay for the poison that they inflict upon us with a carbon tax. And we could use that carbon tax for, it could be just a fee rebate to everybody in the country, or it could be used to fund a healthcare system. There's lots of possibilities, but spot on, Mark. Ending the oil subsidies should be at the top of our list. Thank you for the call. Lisa in Chicago. Hey, Lisa, what's up?
Oh, hi. I wanted to also touch on the conversation you were having with the expert on cafe standards.
With Charles.
One of the things I don't understand, as we start looking at, removing two regulations for every new one introduced and everything else, and Detroit is a great example. America, what makes America great is our innovation and our ability to create great products in the world. Most of Scandinavia is outlying conventional fuel vehicles. All of Europe, we are the only ones who are denying climate change. The rest of the world's on board with it. And so the products that they are expecting to be introduced in the next 5, 10, 15 years align with that premise. If America says, hey, we don't need to innovate, climate change doesn't matter, we're worried about that mom, which was a ridiculous argument. I lived in Hong Kong for 5 years. I have asthma. I can tell him firsthand I got asthma from living in a polluted country.
Right.
But if we are no longer innovating, who are we going to sell to? That is what makes America great. It's our technology. It's our ability to look forward and develop products that will make sure that we are competitive in the marketplace. The world's going to leave us behind, and all this does is guarantee that process.
Yeah, and it's not just Europe, by the way. China, there's an interesting piece in the Financial Times yesterday about how China's trying to force their cab drivers in Beijing to all go electric, and so they're resisting it because there's not enough charging stations. It's like the infrastructure hasn't caught up yet, but right. China's got this really serious problem with air pollution, and one of the ways. Go ahead.
I work in the solar industry, and I can tell you, as people say all the time that China's not doing their share, in 2015, China installed more solar in the country than the United States has ever installed.
Oh, in 2015,
over 50 years.
China installed more solar than the entire rest of the world.
Yes. So to say that it can't be done quickly, and that China's not doing their share so the U.S. could continue to pollute, I mean, their arguments are so full of holes, it's ridiculous, but all it does is guarantee us last place.
Yeah, I totally agree, Lisa. It's like, we're defending General Motors. Well, you're defending their short-term profits, and you're sacrificing the long-term health and wealth of our society as a consequence of that. Lisa, very well said. Thank you for the call. Ed in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Hey, Ed, what's up?
How you doing, Tom? Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
I've been listening, and I've been paying attention to the shift in our politics and our national priorities for a long, long time. And it seems to me quite evident that the Libertarians and Republicans, their primary focus and their goal is to increase the profit margins of corporations, and with the excuse that is going to make life better for the average American. When I hear George Sauer say that it's okay to produce carbon-producing cars because cheaper because it makes it easier for a young mother, I'd find that ridiculous. The Democrats seem to have the right idea that we need to improve the quality of the lives of our citizens. I think 25 years ago, I mean, they've been trying to walk a middle of the line between corporate interest and civic interest. And I think 25 years ago, they bent a little bit too far in the wrong direction as a result of Bill Clinton and his policies, and further on down the road, Hillary Clinton and her policies. But I just think that we're sacrificing too much in the interest of corporations.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in fact, the Declaration of Independence, it is their right, it is their duty. Well, this is absolute despotism. I guess we're not quite there yet, but that whenever any form of government, here it is, that to secure these rights, inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which I would think includes being in a world with clean air. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall be most likely to affect their safety and happiness. It doesn't say they're free markets. It doesn't say they're billionaires. It's pretty straight. I mean, that's the Declaration of Independence, for goodness sake. Ed, well said. Thank you very much for the call. Paul in Cadillac, Michigan. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Sir, I would like to know your opinion. Why wages haven't kept up for the last couple of years, sir?
Principally, there are three things that feed into workers' wages. One is the demand for labor, and the economy's been kind of soft since the crash of it's been kind of soft. So, secondly, the demand for labor is also a function of how airtight the marketplace is. As long as companies can ship their jobs overseas, then you have a surplus of workers left here in the United States. And as long as companies can bring people in on H-1B visas, to work for half the price of an American worker who's equally qualified, you're going to have a surplus of labor. So that's going to fight raising prices. And then the third way, so our trade policies and our immigration policies are hurting average working people. And then the third way that you do it is by taxation, actually. Okay. When you raise taxes on working people, it raises their wages. When you raise taxes on the wealthy, it transfers some of their wealth to working people, and that generates more demand. That demand stimulates the economy. The stimulation of the economy puts more people to work. And this is why, if you look at the trajectory of jobs in this country, you see that they pretty much come to a screaming halt in '81 with Ronald Reagan. And it was the massive tax cuts for the very wealthy, and initially some tax cuts for working people. And what that does is it causes employers to say, hey, you're taking home more money now, and so I don't need to give you a raise. And over time, you'll see that wages flatten out or even collapse. And that's exactly what's happened since 1981. Wages literally from the George Washington administration to the Reagan administration tracked productivity. They followed productivity very smoothly. And right now, if the minimum wage was productivity adjusted to where it was in 1968, it would be almost $20 an hour. If it was inflation adjusted to where it was at 68, it would be around $13 an hour. So, but we've done neither. So, all of these things have conspired to drive down wages. Am I making sense, Paul? Have I answered your question?
Right. Yeah, I'm a middle-of-the-road libertarian, Tom. Just educate me. What is the progressive way to increase wages? I'm open, sir.
Yeah. The number one way to increase wage, I would refer you, if you're a libertarian, you're probably familiar with David Ricardo. And in 1819, he wrote a book called On Labor. And, or actually it was a chapter in a book that he wrote. I am sorry, I don't remember the title of the larger book. There was also a chapter called On Wages and another one on taxes. And On Labor, he basically points out that it's all about keeping labor markets tight. This is what labor unions used to do. This is the whole point of a closed shop, was the union is controlling the marketplace for labor. And as a consequence of that, the price of labor goes up. and this is not a modern invention. This goes back to literally the Renaissance, to the 14th century. After the Black Death, when there was a shortage of masons, the first union that emerged was masons, and the whole point of it was to drive up prices of labor. The American Medical Association does it right now by limiting the number of people who can go to medical school. And historically, what countries do is they say, we're going to have labor policies and trade policies that benefit our working people by essentially regulating the market for labor. And that's what we did up until, and for example, I mean, yesterday I was talking to Ron Wyden on this program. Oh, was it? No, it wasn't Ron Wyden. It was Jeff Merkley, the senator from Oregon, on this program. And he was talking, when we were talking about how in 1933, the Buy America Act was passed by Congress and signed into law by Franklin Roosevelt that said that the federal government, whenever it buys anything, has to buy things manufactured in the United States. And starting in 1980, in 1981, really, Reagan stopped giving waivers to that. And so, we stopped buying things manufactured in America, which diminished, and the government is like, 10% of the economy. And when it's not buying things made in America, it's buying things made in Asia, or made in South America, or made in Mexico, or whatever. And so it's, again, depressing wages. So, this is, governments intervene in marketplaces to the benefit of their people. I mean, that's the ideal, Paul. Unfortunately, what we have increasingly is governments intervening in markets to the benefit of the donors to the political class. And that is a perversion. And I agree with libertarians on that. Paul, thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back with more of your calls, and we're going to check in with Talk Media News in just a few minutes. And welcome back. Reed in Rockford, Illinois, watching us on Free Speech TV. Hey, Reed, what's on your mind?
Hi, just a second. I got to turn you off of
okay.
speaker. I was listening the other day. I couldn't get through till now, but you had a guy on that was talking about fracking and how evidence has shown that fracking actually creates earthquakes. But
right.
I'd like to see somebody do research on this, because I remember decades ago in one of my science magazines where they were experimenting, pumping water into earthquake zones, and they actually found they were causing earthquakes. They were trying to minimize the danger by releasing the pressure a little at a time.
Right.
But when they realized how effective it was pouring water in and creating earthquakes, just plain water, not this caustic stuff, they stopped doing it because they were afraid they're going to create a major earthquake.
Right. Right.
And
no, this is the research has been done. In Oklahoma specifically, the guy who sat on it was Scott Pruitt. He was the Oklahoma Attorney General. He was the one who oversaw all this stuff and made sure that there were no lawsuits and that nobody could be held accountable for causing these earthquakes. But he's now at the EPA, and whether Oklahoma is going to do something about the earthquakes or not is an open question. But it's fairly obvious. They went from 3 earthquakes a year to 3 earthquakes a day.
Yeah.
Just as a consequence of fracking, and they're starting to see the same thing in North Dakota as well. So,
and it's not going to get less if they keep doing it. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. Reed, thanks a lot for the call.
Thank you for taking my call. I wish I had your patience.
Okay, thank you, Reed. Good talking to you. Sally in Sandyville, West Virginia. Hey, Sally, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
There's so many things, while I'm listening, there are things that come up. And one thing I want to say is I went to the Ford Manufacturing Company in Dearborn back in the early 70s. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I went on a tour, and the tour guide said they then had the technology to produce a car that got 50 miles to the gallon.
Sure.
So I just want to put that out there. Tom, when I think it was during the last campaign, drive, that you said try to do 3 things a week to, support our point of view and to get our ideas across and so on. Well, Today there's a campaign going on, today, the Ides of March, to send Donald Trump a postcard to put out our ideas and whatever we think is important and let him know our concerns. So I just wanted to give voice to that idea. I sent mine yesterday. No insults, no name calling, just what I think will make America great again, or keep it great, because I think it already is great.
Right. So what did you suggest to the Donald?
Well, the first line was, we do not need a wall. And then I said, we need clean water, clean air, affordable health care, peace, and maybe one or two other things. I just had like 7 items, and then I said, and then we will be great. This will keep us great.
Yeah, that's marvelous. And you just sent it to Donald Trump, Washington, D.C.?
Well, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue,
right.
Washington, D.C. So.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I wish, I just wanted to sort of publicize this movement. I'm not sure who really is behind it.
I'm not either, but I've seen it all over the place, that people are...
Have you? Well, good.
Yeah, people are talking about it. In fact, I saw some tweets, and maybe it was in our chat room, where people were complaining about not being able to get postcards at the post office.
Really? Well, come to Sandyville. She said she hasn't sold one in a long time.
Yeah. Sally, thanks a lot for the call, and good on you for being an activist. We'll be back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Let's check in with Talk Media News and find out what's going on in the world today. This report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com. And on the line with us is Ellen Ratner. Hey, Ellen, what's going on in the world today?
Well, thank you so much. What's really fascinating, Tom, is people are wondering in Washington, did the president leak his own taxes?
Right.
Because it's obviously very favorable to him. Although he did use the alternative minimum tax, which he'd like to get rid of,
right.
But clearly this was a favorable year. It is stamped with, this is the president's copy. Well, he wasn't the president at the time it came out. So now people are wondering if he leaked his own taxes.
Yeah, I think you can build a strong case. This is John Barron, the guy who used to call the reporters and say, right. I got to tell you about Donald Trump.
Right. And change his voice.
Right, yeah. He didn't change his voice that much. I've heard some of the tapes. It's pretty obviously Donald Trump.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so he just landed in Michigan, and he's going to try and get more cars made, but he wants to reduce the emission standard. Now, it's interesting, the National Resources Defense Council put out a statement in expecting him to reduce the standards, and they said this change makes no sense. Mileage standards save consumers money at the gas pump, make Americans less dependent on oil, reduce carbon pollution, advance innovation, and of course, the other thing is, how about all the manufacturers of green cars now?
Right.
What's going to happen to them? They're not going to be happy campers.
Right, and this is innovation. I mean, if you want to stimulate innovation in the United States, set standards. Companies will innovate.
Right. Also, Hill News today is reporting that FBI Director James Comey is going to testify on the House Intelligence Committee as early as Monday into Russian interference in the elections, which, of course, we certainly have some question about. Mm-hmm. But he's going to be testifying. Now, also, it's interesting, the head of the Intelligence Committee, who's a Republican, in addition to the Democrat ranking member who's from California, said that they so far see no interference in terms of the Trump Tower wiretapping, and they would like to ask the FBI to show them if it really exists.
Yeah. Well said. Meanwhile, what's the story with these 2 Russian spies who got busted for hacking Yahoo?
Well, it's actually 4 people.
Right.
So the story is that the grand jury out in California indicted them. Now, as you know, there's the saying that a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich.
Right.
But it is, according to what was released by the Justice Department, 2 of the people, at least 2, made a lot of money on this hacking. So did the hacking really happen from the Russians, or was it an individual hack and perhaps they were part of the Russian equivalent of the CIA or KBG as it used to be, But maybe they did this on their own. We don't know whether it was part of the Russians or whether they actually just did this on their own. One of the people was from Canada, of the 4 that were indicted, and they took that person into custody.
Oh, interesting.
And for the life of me, I cannot pronounce that person's name.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right.
Okay. So the other very interesting thing is the Cancer Survivors Network just issued a television ad for Planned Parenthood. And basically they said Planned Parenthood was able to diagnose their illness, was able to catch it, and they want to support Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood does a lot more than abortions. And I know from Cholene, who works out here at Planned Parenthood, that they do a lot more than abortions. They really provide basic care, and they get about $500 million from the federal government. Donald Trump wants to cut that off, but then where are these people going to get services?
Right. Right. When Paul Ryan lied about this, he said that for every Planned Parenthood office, there were 20 community health centers. But that included dentist offices, bunion removal places,
women's health care.
Veterinarians. I mean, I'm going to go to the veterinarian and get my IUD. It's crazy.
Your cat will get it.
Right.
Okay. By the way, also, I do want to talk about climate change for a second. There are 3 Republicans, a woman from New York, one from Pennsylvania, they're fairly new, one from Florida, and they actually introduced a House resolution called Republican Climate Resolution with 17 Republican co-sponsors. They acknowledge that climate change is caused by human activities, and they called on Congress to support economically viable solutions to combat the great challenge.
Now, I missed the very beginning of that, Ellen. Who did this?
This is 3 Republicans. Elise Stefanik, I think is her name, right. Ryan Costello, Carlos Curbelo.
3 Republicans in the House of Representatives?
That's right, along with 17 Republican co-sponsors.
Whoa.
Yeah. Things are changing.
Republicans take on the fossil fuel barons who own them. That's amazing.
That is amazing, but they actually did that today.
Right.
Now, also, it's very interesting. Common Cause has now said that they want, in this new election, this would be to replace Tom Price, who's now HHS Secretary. He's a physician from Georgia, and they want paper ballots because they said without paper ballots, they can't absolutely certify this election, and they're suing for paper ballots.
Who's they?
This is Common Cause.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's great. I mean, this when Georgia went all electronic, our producer was living in Georgia at the time, and in Atlanta, and all of a sudden the election started coming out the exact opposite of the exit polls, and it was just by the exact same proportions. The guy was up 2 points, he came out down 2 points, or vice versa. And our producer Zen Pickle, he voted and he shut down 7 machines by trying to write a candidate, and each machine, when it got shut down, it had to be rebooted and all this kind of. Anyway, back to you, Ellen. I'm sorry.
Well, Common Cause is saying that cyber attackers could have planted vote counting malware, and that this is why they want paper ballots.
Yeah. Amen. Okay, Ellen Ratner with Talk Media News, brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon. Coming up next, Rebecca Vallas will be with us. She is the managing director of the Poverty to Prosperity Program at the Center for American Progress. So she'll be with us in just a few minutes. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the organic wine company, ecowine.com. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit freespeechbeets.com. And welcome back. Free Speech TV is in its fundraising drive. I believe the overall goal is about $300,000. Typically, our show raises a good chunk of that, sometimes as much as half, and which would be $150,000, which over 15 days, 3 weeks of fundraising drive would be $10,000 a day. And Monday we hit 4,000, and yesterday we hit 6,000. So we're falling behind. Well, we're getting better here, but we need to make up what we've lost, and we need to catch up, and we need your help because we've got to pay the bills. We've got to keep this network running. We've got to keep the lights on. We've got to keep the programs flowing, and we need to keep reaching out to new people and saying, hey, there's actual progressive programming going on, on Dish Network, on DirecTV, on cable systems all around the country, and you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on, well, I know that they're working on Apple TV. They don't have that yet. I think that Hulu has cut a deal with Free Speech TV. If not, it's about to. I mean, it's just like all kinds of cool stuff here, and a lot of great ways that people can find this show and find this network. But we've got to keep it going. And that means we need you to call 877-378-8669 right now and make a contribution to support Free Speech TV. Independent media, I mean, genuinely independent media, media that's not owned by a giant conglomerate, media that is not dancing to the tunes of giant pharma or oil or whatever advertisers, is a real rare thing. I mean, we used to think that our independent media was NPR. And then, during the Reagan administration, they started cutting back the funding to it to the point now where only 7% of their revenue is coming from the federal government. And the majority of it is being made up now with corporate contributions. Have you noticed that they no longer do investigative reporting? They no longer call out companies for their Instead, they're putting on regularly people from Heritage and American Enterprise. These are the so-called think tanks that are just really PR front groups for big corporations and the billionaires that they create. So independent media in the United States is pretty much down to here, to Free Speech TV. It's pretty spooky when you think about it. But, we need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help to make this independent television network strong, to make it grow, to help it grow. Well, and right now, first, we've just got to pay the bills for the next quarter. So please call now. If with a $60 gift, we will send you a Free Speech TV water bottle. That's with a $60 gift. With a $120 gift, we'll send you a copy of Sarah Van Gelder's new book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through the New America by Sarah Van Gelder. She's the publisher, or the editor of Yes Magazine. And this is a 12,000-mile journey that she took, and she chronicles her story through it. With a $150 contribution, you get the Revolution Where You Live book and the DVD of The Spirit of Standing Rock, which is a pretty remarkable piece of video. That's with $150. With $240, you get that Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, a Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. That's all with $240. With $360, and notice all of these are divisible by 12, so that could be, $30 a month, $240 could be $20 a month. With a $360 gift,
You get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, and this Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, you're welcome to come to Washington, D.C., and I will be pleased to buy you lunch. And we can sit and talk, and typically we'll get a few people together and we'll have a little pizza party or whatever the consensus is that people would like to eat. So there's a great place around the corner that has actually gluten-free crusts, and I can get a vegan pizza there. But there's a Thai restaurant over here. There's a bunch of stuff. So Ethiopian right downstairs. DC is a wonderful city for food and for tourism. So come to DC, make a $1,000 gift, and have a pizza party with us. But the main thing is helping Free Speech TV keep on going. And to that, Free Speech TV needs your help now. We are behind on our goal for the Monday and Tuesday. And, we haven't really kind of hit our stride here. We really need to raise $10,000 today. And, that's just 100 donations at $100 a piece, I believe, right? Yeah. Or 50 donations at $200 a piece. I mean, that's not an overwhelming goal. We should be able to do that if you will call now and make a contribution. 877-378-8669. This is serious time. This is serious stuff. These are serious times. And we really need independent media in the United States right now to keep people awake and to help people, to be a meeting place, essentially. That's here. Thanks so much for your help. Call now, please.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And in the studio with us, Rebecca Vallas, the Managing Director of the Poverty to Prosperity Program at the Center for American Progress, and a host of Talk Poverty Radio, which has been relaunched as the Off Kilter radio show and podcast. You can find it at facebook.com/offkiltershow. And AmericanProgress.org, of course, is the Center for American Progress. And Rebecca Vallas, you can tweet her at Rebecca Vallas, Vallas. And Rebecca, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me on, Tom.
Great having you with us. So the show has been relaunched and renamed. And tell us about the show.
Yeah, so Talk Poverty Radio launched about 2 years ago, and it's been the only show in the nation week after week that covers poverty and inequality as its main focus. It's critically important at a time where not only are more than 13 million Americans living in poverty, but 1 in 3 Americans are struggling to make ends meet. The main reason that we relaunched the show, and really our new focus now, it's still poverty, it's still inequality, but we're living in crazy times. I mean, it's not just that we've got 1 in 3 Americans struggling to make ends meet week to week, but we have a president in the White House who promised and campaigned repeatedly to fight for working families. Even he called himself the head of a workers' party during the campaign, but he's already showing through his agenda that not only is he not fighting for the people that he promised to help improve their economic circumstances, he's stabbing them straight in the back, and he's fighting for he's fighting for his millionaire and billionaire friends instead. We've seen this through the budget that we actually expect him to put out tomorrow, which zeroes out programs like legal services, which helps people afford lawyers, zeroes out programs like the Violence Against Women Act grants, which help domestic violence survivors, all to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy and for corporations. That's the real agenda here, no different from his Republican colleagues in Congress.
So this is George Bush and Ronald Reagan all over again.
Well, I think it's worse than that. And I think that that's true not just because of the incredible hateful and divisive agenda that we've seen tax on immigrants really just being the tip of the iceberg. But it's also true because we're now watching him and his colleagues in Congress try to remove health insurance from more than 24 million Americans by 2026. That is what the Congressional Budget Office has estimated would be the fallout of repealing the Affordable Care Act. Those are the very people who placed their bets on Donald Trump to try to improve their economic circumstances, and he's singling them out for devastation.
Yeah, and on top of that, he wants to bring back subprime insurance policies.
Basically, every single aspect of his agenda is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He claims to want to save jobs, bring back jobs. Instead, he puts in place a massive federal hiring freeze that actually was a recipe for killing jobs, and jobs that go to people like veterans who make up more than 40% of new federal hires. So the very people that he claimed to protect are the people who are now actually going to be the victims of the American carnage he pledged in his inauguration speech to put an end to.
How you said 1 in 3 Americans is struggling with poverty.
Well, struggling to make ends meet. So it's a little bit more than just the austere kind of federal government definition of poverty, which doesn't capture living paycheck to paycheck, but it's more like living paycheck to paycheck.
Well, and very much. I mean, Mitt Romney's famous 47% of Americans who don't pay income taxes, or federal income taxes anyway, because basically they're living that close to the poverty level. They're barely making it. How does this compare with decade by decade over the last 60, 70, 80 years?
So what we've seen when it comes to the official poverty rate is that looking back to, say, 1967, right, the war on poverty was declared. LBJ put in place important programs that today are really critical anti-poverty programs. The nation's poverty rate today, when you take into account those programs, would be more than twice as high, if not for those kinds of investments in nutrition assistance and housing and Medicaid, the very program that Republicans are trying to dismantle right now. But what you've actually seen is more complicated than just that poverty piece of the pie. So as you were saying, that 1 in 3 figure of Americans struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, that is the direct result of the fact that we have not seen wages keep pace with productivity in this country. We've seen instead the wealthiest and large corporations really capture almost all of the gains that really have been put forth by workers themselves. And so what we see when we see people like President Trump claim to care about improving workers' circumstances, but then join with his Republican colleagues in Congress in opposing efforts to, say, raise the minimum wage, which at this point has lost a quarter of its real value since those 1960s I was talking about. What you're seeing is them stymie the very policies that would put a dent in that 1 in 3 figure.
Well, and I would argue that prior to the Reagan tax cuts, that CEOs basically they would hit a level of income, and it was roughly the equivalent of $3 million a year in today's dollars. They would hit that, and at that point, their income tax rate would go from 40% to 74%, and they'd say, "Okay, this is all I'm going to take." And it's for 4 decades, CEO salaries were 30 times what average workers were, and it was not some magic thing, and it wasn't that CEOs suddenly became sociopathic, and it was that the top tax rate got dropped from 74% to 25% in 1986. And so isn't the simplest solution to income inequality to roll back the Reagan tax cuts?
Well, and instead what you end up seeing is one party of Congress that, largely because of Grover Norquist, feels that tax is a dirty 4-letter word, that they can't even have a real conversation about the revenue that it takes to run this country. And instead it's starving the beast, or trying to drown the government until it's the size of what you can drown in the bathtub. I mean, that's classic Grover Norquist, right?
His phrase tomorrow last.
That's what we're seeing. And so the consequences at this point are we now have a nation where the 20 richest people who live in this country hold more wealth than the bottom half of the nation's population combined. 20 people holding more wealth than the bottom half of our population. And instead, you see, again, the Republicans in Congress and Trump joining them using even pieces of legislation like their repeal of the Affordable Care Act that is currently moving through Congress as vehicles for further enriching the wealthy. That, make no mistake, that piece of legislation has hidden in it $600 billion of tax cuts to the wealthiest people in this country. If you're one of the top 1/10 of 1% in this country, you would end up taking home $200,000 in a single year just in tax cuts that they're calling health care.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Rebecca Vallas, Managing Director of Poverty and Prosperity Program at the Center for American Progress, the new show, or the newly named Off Kilter podcast. You can find out about it at Off Kilter Show at Facebook. Thank you. And welcome back. Mac, watching Free Speech TV in Chowdhury, Colorado. Hey, Mac, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom. Got good news. Everybody's been asking about what's the Democratic Party been doing. Ought to check out Colorado.
Okay.
Based on your urgings, I rejoined the party and found myself in Denver at the Central Committee meeting this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole attitude of the whole committee meeting was almost the Bernie Sanders platform.
Wow, that's great.
We elected a firebrand lady who makes her living as a human rights and immigration lawyer as our chair, and 2 commitments came out of it. Complete up and down from city council to governor's office commitment to put up candidates and push the progressive agenda. And the second was a unified agreement to resist Mr. whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see some really progressive stuff come out of Colorado.
That's great. Is Cory Gardner, are his days numbered politically?
We certainly hope so. I happen to have the misfortune of living in his congressional district, and he is not a popular representative anymore.
Well, he's your senator, isn't he?
Oh, Cory Gardner. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm thinking of Scott Tipton.
Yeah,
Cory Gardner, and I have some concerns about Mr. Bennett. He gave a speech that was almost, hey, remember me, I'm almost a progressive, and I'm trying real hard to be.
Well, that's not bad. But Cory Gardner's a Republican. And is he up for re-election next year?
That I do not know.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's either next year or it's 2 years after. And but I think that I'd have to go back and look. I think that it was 2012 he got elected, but it might be 2014. In any case, that's great news, Mac.
I heard your name more than once.
Really?
Yes, sir. You got a lot of fans there. During Bennett's speech, he said, "How many folks are new?" And more than half the room.
Wow, that's marvelous. That is marvelous.
We're new folks. And did I tell you the vote on our chairman?
No? Go ahead.
It wasn't a close one. It was like 410 to 36.
Wow. For a genuine progressive firebrand as chairman of the Colorado Democratic Party.
Yes, sir. And almost all of the other officers were, hey, vote for me. I've been a progressive longer than this guy. And, hey, vote for me. I'm a better progressive than this guy.
Vote for me. I remember FDR.
Well, and this is a real grassroots organization.
Yeah.
It's precinct chairman and county chairman, congressional district chairman, but it's all people that are volunteers.
That is marvelous stuff.
An awful lot of them are people that felt a little bit slighted in the primary, and they were Bernie supporters, and they did exactly what you said.
And they're back. Mac, thanks a lot for the story. You made my day. It's a great one to hear. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
This year's election results have generated fear, sadness, and despair.
In the days and months ahead,
our democracy may face a crisis of historic proportions.
But there is good news.
There is good news.
There is good news. Thousands of people are stepping forward in solidarity, resistance,
and resolve.
We join them.
We join them.
We join them.
in standing with the most vulnerable communities among us.
Those most likely to be targeted by new restrictions and policies.
We will tell their stories here.
Here.
Here on Free Speech TV.
We will lift their voices here.
Here on Free Speech TV.
In the difficult times ahead, know that we will be with you 24 hours a day, every day.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
There are millions of us.
Raising our voices and hearts together as one.
We've got your back.
We got your back.
Free Speech TV's got your back.
The revolution is in progress.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And boy, what a day. Miguel in Portage, Indiana. Hey, Miguel, what's up?
Oh, hi there. Hey, Tom, I have a question concerning about what's going on around the world when it comes to the rise of anti-immigration rhetoric. That includes Trump, Brexit, Le Pen, and right now Dutch. And this includes Steve King as well, who's talking about culture and demographics are as our destiny and what we can, and that the United States cannot restore its civilization with somebody else's babies. This goes back to the historical past of the United States using immigrants as scapegoats. And I was just wondering, is this just a continuous divide and conquer technique in order for the Trump administration to, distract us from the real concern, which is our economy and it isn't functioning for everyone? Or is there an actual concern for the Western culture or the white man about maintaining power?
Yeah. You have some white supremacists who are freaked out that non-white people, in their opinions, cannot hold together Western culture, that they don't like Beethoven and Bach and, whatever. I mean, you see this done in dog whistle style on Fox News every single night. So you've got that. You've got the basically white supremacists. But you also have something very real here, Miguel, that we ignore at our peril, and we need to acknowledge the reality of it. And that is that if a country does not define its borders, then eventually it ceases to become a country. And this is what a lot of these countries in Europe are dealing with right now, because through the Schengen Agreement, anybody in any European country can go to any other European country and work, which means that countries have essentially totally lost control of their borders. And the result of that is economic distress. So you get economic distress. In the UK, for example, there was this whole campaign against the Polish plumber. This was years ago. But basically people from Poland who were used to working for, say, the equivalent of $4 or $5 an hour, which is big money in Poland, were going to the UK where plumbers were making $15 or $20 an hour or whatever it is. I don't know the numbers, but this is for example. And taking jobs at just slightly less than that, say $15 an hour. They're making a pile of money by Polish standards. They're undercutting the market by British standards, and they're driving down wages in the UK. And eventually, working people in the UK said enough of this. Now, when you've got something like that going on, and you've got an analog to that here in the United States, when Reagan stopped enforcing the rules that put employers in prison if they hired people who were not U.S. citizens, and we had this law in the United States from the 1930s until 86, when Reagan signed his amnesty legislation, and it's still, the law still says that if an employer hires people who are undocumented, that employer has broken the law. But the law has not been enforced since 1986, and as a result of that, the rich are getting richer. They've busted the unions in the construction trades industry, in the meatpacking industry, and a whole bunch of other industries. They've broken up the unions. They've driven down wages as a consequence of this. And surprise, surprise, American working people who find themselves unemployed, particularly white working people who are really vulnerable to this sales pitch that black people, brown people, Muslim people, Mexican people, whatever, want to take your job. They're reacting by becoming white nationalists, by becoming white supremacists. And this is like really unhealthy. This is a really bad thing for any country to have that kind of a movement going on inside the country. But the movement comes about
as a consequence, in the case of Europe, of the Schengen Agreement, the European Union, and in the United States, as the result of our not enforcing our own immigration policies, our own immigration laws. And what it does is, over the short term, it seems like, oh, this is a nice thing. We're helping people out. They're coming to the United States. But over the long term, what it does is it just feeds the Pat Buchanans of the world. It feeds the Steve Bannons of the world. And so what they're saying, what these movements are saying, what Le Pen is saying in France, Wilders, Geert Wilders is saying in Holland, what Donald Trump is saying in the United States is essentially, your problems are caused by those low-income, low-wage, low-educated brown people who are coming into the country. And like I said, that's a very toxic message. But as long as there is an element of truth to it, it's going to spread. And I'm of the opinion that these countries in Europe need to abandon the Schengen, I can never pronounce it right, agreement, and go back to having national borders, which is not to say you don't take in immigrants and you don't take in refugees. You do that, but you do that, in reasonable numbers. And in the United States, we need to get a handle on our situation here. But let's not do it in a brutal fashion. Let's not tear families apart. I mean, the situation in the United States was created by Ronald Reagan. It wasn't created by people coming here from Mexico looking for a better life. They're just responding to the magnet of jobs that was created for them. Am I making sense, Miguel?
You are. I'm actually part of a population that's undocumented here in the United States that have been benefited through DACA.
Yeah.
Good. Set by Obama. And this is a huge concern for us. But I actually wanted to go through the fact that most of the people that migrate from where we're migrating are from war-torn countries and countries that are suffering economically due to a trade agreement.
Yep.
So how come we don't move through a policy that accepts immigration just like globalization accepts technology and the movement of money, but yet they don't accept the movement of human beings? For me, that doesn't make much sense. If you're going to accept the rest of the things, why not accept the humanity aspect of globalization?
I completely agree. And what I would say is don't accept the money or open the borders. Instead, let each country be a complete country, because as you correctly point out, over 1 million Mexican farmers left the farm in the years immediately after NAFTA was signed in '93, I think it was, or whatever year it was that NAFTA was signed. And, it was a direct result of cheap corn being imported into Mexico. It was wiping out Mexican subsistence farmers. And so you've got that. You've got, as you point out, war in some areas, the drug wars, the oligarchs and whatnot. And we just made the situation worse with our trade policies. And then our immigration policy didn't say, you won't find a job when you get here. So we've got to clean this up. And giving all the DACA people, a fast track to citizenship is, in my opinion, step one. Number two, if somebody's here and they're married, they have family, we should, rapid pace them for citizenship. And number three, we need to start enforcing the laws against employers hiring people who are not citizens, as every other country in the world does, except the European Union. But they do that with us. When I lived in Germany, I had to get a work permit. It took me 6 months to get the damn work permit, just in order to get a paycheck. But anyhow, Miguel, thanks a lot for the call. It's a complex topic that tragically lends itself well to demagoguery by these right-wing crazies. And Miguel, I wish you the very best. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Well, the Fed's just hiked interest rates by 1/4 point. Get ready. And welcome back. Free Speech TV is in its fundraising drive. I believe the overall goal is about $300,000. Typically, our show raises a good chunk of that, sometimes as much as half, and which would be $150,000, which over 15 days
3 weeks of fundraising drive would be $10,000 a day. And Monday we hit 4,000, and yesterday we hit 6,000. So we're falling behind. Well, we're getting better here, but we need to make up what we've lost, and we need to catch up, and we need your help. Because we've got to pay the bills. We've got to keep this network running. We've got to keep the lights on. We've got to keep the programs flowing, and we need to keep, reaching out to new people and saying, hey, there's actual progressive programming going on, on Dish Network, on DirecTV, on cable systems all around the country, and you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on, well, I know that they're working on Apple TV. They don't have that yet. I think that Hulu has cut a deal with Free Speech TV. If not, it's about to. I mean, it's just like all kinds of cool stuff here, and a lot of great ways that people can find this show and find this network. But we've got to keep it going. And that means we need you to call 877-378-8669 right now and make a contribution to support Free Speech TV. Independent media. I mean, genuinely independent media, media that's not owned by a giant conglomerate, media that is not dancing to the tunes of giant pharma or oil or whatever advertisers, is a real rare thing. I mean, we used to think that our independent media was NPR. And then, during the Reagan administration, they started cutting back the funding to it, to the point now where only 7% of their revenue is coming from the federal government. And the majority of it is being made up now with corporate contributions. Have you noticed that they no longer do investigative reporting? They no longer call out companies for their Instead, they're putting on regularly people from Heritage and American Enterprise. These are the so-called think tanks that are just really PR front groups for big corporations and the billionaires that they create. So independent media in the United States is pretty much down to here, to Free Speech TV. It's pretty spooky when you think about it. But, we need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help to make this independent television network strong, to make it grow, to help it grow. Well, and right now, first, we've just got to pay the bills for the next quarter. So please call now. If with a $60 gift, we will send you a Free Speech TV water bottle. That's with a $60 gift. With a $120 gift, we'll send you a copy of Sarah Van Gelder's new book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through the New America by Sarah Van Gelder. She's the publisher, or the editor of Yes Magazine. And this is a 12,000-mile journey that she took, and she chronicles her story through it. With a $150 contribution, you get the Revolution Where You Live book and the DVD of The Spirit of Standing Rock, which is a pretty remarkable piece of video. That's with $150. With $240, you get that Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, a Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. That's all with $240. With $360, and notice all of these are divisible by 12, so that could be, $30 a month, $240 could be $20 a month. With a $360 gift, you get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, and this Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, you're welcome to come to Washington, D.C., and I will be pleased to buy you lunch, and we can sit and talk, and typically we'll get a few people together and we'll have a little pizza party or whatever the consensus is that people would like to eat. So there's a great place around the corner that has actually gluten-free crusts, and I can get a vegan pizza there. But there's a Thai restaurant over here. There's a bunch of stuff. So Ethiopian right downstairs. DC is a wonderful city for food and for tourism. So come to DC, make a $1,000 gift, and have a pizza party with us. But the main thing is helping Free Speech TV keep on going. And to that, Free Speech TV needs your help now. We are behind on our goal for the Monday and Tuesday. And, we haven't really kind of hit our stride here. We really need to raise $10,000 today. And, that's just 100 donations at $100 a piece, I believe, right? Yeah. or 50 donations at $200 a piece. I mean, that's not an overwhelming goal. We should be able to do that if you will call now and make a contribution. 877-378-8669. This is serious time. This is serious stuff. These are serious times. And we really need independent media in the United States right now to keep people awake and to help people, to be a meeting place, essentially. That's here. Thanks so much for your help. Call now, please.
Hey, want to hear that clip again? Subscribe to the Thom Hartmann Program on YouTube to see all your favorite show highlights. All the important stories we cover and the issues we care about are at HartmannReport.com. Members of our community can comment and join the conversation.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Yeah, Michael Greenspan tweeted, you raised Ricardo, but something low left out, his iron law of wages. Yeah, well, that was what I was referring to, actually, is David Ricardo's iron law of wages. It's been a long time since I've heard that phrase, but it's been a long time since I've read David Ricardo, in which he basically said in a marketplace, in a labor marketplace, when there's a surplus of workers, wages will decline, and when there is a demand for workers which exceeds the supply, the wages will go up. It's a very simple, straightforward formula. And so that's why countries calibrate their trade policies and their domestic employment policies to make sure that, the number of workers and the number of jobs roughly match up so that you maintain high wages. There's all those variables that I talked about before. There's one other variable that Pat Buchanan and a number of other right-wingers, but Phyllis Schlafly, in fact, used to come on this program and talk about, which is also women coming into the workplace in big numbers in the 1970s. And keep in mind, in 1961, the first birth control was legalized. And in 73, abortion was legalized. And the result of those two things, in addition to the sexual revolution, was, a revolution in gender roles, essentially, in the workplace. And so, the Republicans looked at this, or the conservatives, the business community looked at this and said, oh, cool, more people to work. That means it drives down wages. That means, we can rip off people better, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying women should not be in the workplace at all. Instead, what we need to do is accommodate our workplaces to the size of the population available to them, which we're not doing because of our crazy trade policies. In any case, Jim in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
How you doing, Tom? I was listening to your list of things that were with the last caller or the one before that, and I just wanted to add on because I keep missing this. I don't hear it very often. Is that what's really riling people and has been riling people for a long time? That I haven't heard their voice hasn't been heard, basically. And that is like what we heard of these Trumpers, these voters for Trump that were used to be Democratic voters that lost their factories. And there's an ongoing attitude, like what we've heard for the last 30 years, is how about, what about democracy, bringing democracy to the Arabs? At the very same time that these guys are losing their jobs here in this country.
Right. Well, and one of the arguments for making everything in China is we're going to turn China from a third world autocracy, communist dictatorship into, as we bring the marketplace to China, they will liberalize. Well, they have slightly, but
I'm kind of hitting a different angle on this.
Okay.
Like you said that a million Mexicans lost their jobs, lost their farms.
Right.
And I just want to say that was because the oligarchs in Mexico were going to make some money. And in our country, 1 million people lost their jobs because some oligarchs were going to make some money.
Yep.
And Mexico should be saying Mexicans first, and Americans should be saying Americans first.
Yep.
And if they're not, it's because the oligarchs are making money.
Yeah, that was very well said, Jim. You took my entire rant and boiled it down to a couple of sentences, which makes a lot more sense, or is very clearly said. Thank you.
Jim, spot on. I totally agree with you. Walter in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Walter, what's on your mind today?
Oh, good morning, Tom.
Hey, Walter.
Well, I just wanted to comment on our topic du jour of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming up with a number of 500 and some billion in admin costs that are not additive at all. And I call that transactional friction. And I was thinking about it, and I think in addition to that, you could absorb a lot of the VA into a single-payer system and a lot of the L&I claims.
Well, the reason why the VA is not part of, for example, Medicare, which would be fairly easy to say, you know, all veterans can come home and be eligible for Medicare. But so many veterans have unique service-connected injuries that our traditional medical system is not set up to deal with. I mean, people come back with bullet holes in them. And you know, I mean, yeah, we've got, you know, trauma centers and things, but nothing like the VA. And the VA's rehabilitative, you know, services and you know, prosthetics. And so, I mean, it's amazing what the VA does. So I don't think you'd find many veterans who would sign on to let's nuke the VA.
Well, I don't really want to nuke it. I think there's a point, though, where they could be reintegrated into regular health care. You know?
Well, a lot of people are, and already, but anyway. Okay.
So that was a thought. The other thing, you know, I'm thinking at a higher level, if we climb out of the clouds, why don't the Democrats come up with their own counter proposal with this healthcare thing instead of reacting to it, to what we have been presented with?
Yeah, I'm wondering the same thing. The Democrats should be pushing a single-payer bill. They should be getting together with John Conyers and just pushing H.R. 676 as hard as they can. And I think the problem is that not everybody in the Democratic Party believes that we should have Medicare for all. And that's a hurdle that we've got to get over. But you know, I'm with you. Walter, thank you for the call. Rich in Cedro Woolley, Washington. Hey, Rich, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, you know, you pointed out several times that boycotts just don't work, but I think what auto manufacturers are going to respond to is consumer demand. So I'm a Ford guy. I'm going to contact Ford, and I'm going to say, look, I'm not in the market for a car right now, but a few years down the road, I'm going to be looking for something that's cleaner and greener and more efficient. And I think an environmentally aware millennial generation is going to be looking for the same thing.
Right.
We don't want to go backwards to giant gas-guzzling SUVs. And I think if they're looking down the road, 10 years down the road into the future, they're foolish to abandon, you know, the search for a more efficient vehicle or electric vehicles for that matter.
Agreed. But they're going to, you know, I mean, it's nobody has ever accused American industry of thinking long term. They used to before Reagan, but now it's all, you know, quarterly profits because, you know, most of the senior executives are getting spiffed with stock options, which were illegal before the Reagan administration, and or at least unwieldy. And you know, so we've got this perverse incentive system in place that produces the kind of results that we're looking at. But Rich, good on you for sending that note to Ford, and we all should be doing that. Rich, thank you for the call. Michael in Tucson, Arizona. Am I saying your name right? Is it Michael?
Yes.
Hey, Michael, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Is it fair to say that when Americans lose jobs, it harms America?
Yes.
Okay. So why aren't progressives calling out those who outsource American jobs as un-American and unpatriotic?
Progressives have been for a long time.
I haven't heard it, not put this way.
Huh. Okay. Well, you know, you've never been to a Bernie Sanders rally, I can tell you.
No.
But
I pay attention to Bernie Sanders, but I mean, it just the Republicans like to stand on the patriotic issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is something that
slam them.
Donald Trump stole this from Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump stole this from FDR. He stole it from LBJ. I mean, this is the idea that our trade policies are stupid and working against us. Every single trade agreement that the United States is right now a signatory to was
opposed by a majority of Democrats in the House and opposed by a majority of Democrats in the Senate. And it was supported by a majority of Republicans in the House and supported by a majority of Republicans in the Senate. Trump has flipped the Republican Party upside down, at least rhetorically. We'll see if he does anything.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
So, Michael, your point that Democrats should be raising holy hell and saying, here's our alternative, is absolutely spot on right, and the party needs to get its act together. And welcome back. Gene, watching Free Speech TV in Natticoke, Pennsylvania. Am I saying that right, Gene?
Yes, Natticoke, Pennsylvania. This is Gene. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Gene. What's on your mind today?
Well, we're going back about an hour or so, and someone had mentioned something about Kellyanne being worried about penetration from outside sources, say the street or something.
Right, microwave radar. Yeah.
Yeah. I found a major appliance page where they actually have in-wall convection ovens that are Wi-Fi connected. Now, I don't think Kellyanne is technically savvy enough to understand the difference. I really believe she thinks her microwave oven is spying on her.
Right. Well, and if it's part of the Internet of Things, then it might be. I mean, that's the thing. So yeah, I you know, that's how I read it, was that Kellyanne thought that her microwave was spying on her too. But you know, I've got to go back and listen to the interview, I guess. Gene, thanks for the call. It's great to hear from you. Patricia in Portage, Wisconsin. Hey, Patricia, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I want to get back to what China's doing that we're not doing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, James Cameron was the filmmaker for Titanic, and he's been to the bottom of the ocean. He's seen spewing methane coming out of large half-mile rifts in the ocean. And he, of all people, got together with Schwarzenegger to do 5 short documentaries for China to cut its meat consumption by 55 to 60%.
Right.
And that is for global climate change. And if you Google less meat, less heat, more life, because 2/3 of life on the planet is destroyed already by us, you'll see what they're doing. And I think, you know, they're doing it for China, but we need it here. I really don't think we're going to come out with a living world if we don't end slaughterhouses. And I think we have to respect all life now, and we have to get there pretty quickly. So they're doing their part, and China is, you know, has top-down management. They can actually impose this. Mm-hmm. And Trump is like going in a totally other direction, but people can do this themselves, and they really need to connect the dots and know that we're in trouble. The sixth extinction is not imminent. It is far along.
We're in it. Yeah, you can't. That's the thing about an extinction, is you can only see it in retrospect. But when you're in the midst of it, you can't see it. And the way that I would sell veganism to people, and vegetarianism isn't really enough, because in my experience anyway, the cheese, I don't know about eggs, but cheese is worse than meat. It's got more fat. It's more likely to clog your arteries and things like that. So vegetarians, in some ways, are actually making an unhealthy choice if they're replacing their meat with, you know, cheese and dairy. But becoming going to a totally plant-based diet, veganism, it just produces spectacular health results. And nutritionfacts.org is probably the best website on the internet for this. And you're right. If we got rid of slaughterhouses, we're becoming more humane. We're reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And people are going to start living longer. You'll have less cancer. You'll have less heart disease. You'll have less diabetes. You'll have, you know, fewer conditions that diminish people's ability to work. You'll have more productivity. You'll have, you know, healthier kids. I mean, all kinds of positive things come out of it. Patricia, thank you for the call. Excellent points all. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Jim in Streamwood, Illinois, listening to WCPT. Hey, Jim, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
I just wanted to let you know a couple of things really quick. One, you've kind of saved my life because of you identifying people with ADHD as hunters. I was able to take that and I suffer from ADHD and
welcome to the tribe, Jim.
Being able to identify myself as a hunter,
yeah,
because I'm also a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, and once I came home and got out of the Army, I was struggling, obviously, but being able to identify myself as a hunter gave me a newfound purpose. But
Great.
That all said, I love you and thank God for your thoughts and wisdom. And
well, thank you, Jim.
Your
Is that what you called about, though?
What's that?
You called about something else, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Let's get right to it.
I'm rambling off. What I'm trying to say is what I'd like to see in our democracy, or our representative democracy, rather, is how do we? I guess at this point it's a theory, but how do we get our voices heard? And my initial idea was that we make our local representatives more maybe more accountable, or give them maybe more power, so that our local representatives have more influence on national politics. Here, let me give a stupid analogy. You see American Idol, for example. Millions of people just dial in on their phone or whatever and vote for whoever they want.
Mm-hmm.
What if we did something similar with if C-SPAN or something became more attractive, so that you would see
Well, the TV networks are starting to do this now, Jim, with taking polls from their listeners. To some extent, they're doing it to drive up their web traffic, or they're doing it to get your phone number if they're asking you to text it in, because the phone numbers can be sold. But
right.
And that's the problem with these news companies are not really news companies. They're infotainment companies, entertainment companies,
exactly.
And they're being driven by the profit motive rather than the news motive. So. And what you're talking about is going to direct democracy, but we have a representative democracy, as you point out correctly. And so I think that what we need to do is get people registered to vote. I am convinced, Jim, that if everybody in this country were registered to vote and voted, that there would be no more red states left. I
agree 100%. But how do we do that? Because it's like, if we don't do that, it's like the only alternative I see is, I hate to say it, because it's like I was once skilled in whatever acts of violence, and I don't want that.
You don't want revolution in the United States. I don't
want violent revolution. That's for damn sure. But
right.
I don't want the status quo.
I agree with you. And the way that you do that, in my opinion, is capturing the Democratic Party, getting inside it, and getting it to function as a get out the vote machine. Half of America is not even registered to vote. That is an enormous bucket of opportunity.
It's like but honestly, Tom, the Democratic Party reminds me of like the Weimar Republic from Germany when Hitler was coming into power. The Democratic Party just sits there and just says yes, 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 yes. We'll let you step all over us.
Well, see, they'll only do that as long as you and I are not in the party, Jim. And that's why I'm saying, we all need to get involved in the party, and we need to get people of goodwill who are progressive activists also in the party. And the party is turning. The party is changing. The old ways don't work anymore. and they're more and more not working. And by the old ways, I'm talking about the DLC strategies and triangulation and all that. But the old ways, the FDR approach and the LBJ approach, the Great Society and the New Deal, those are very much alive and well and supported hugely by Americans, including Republicans. And Democrats just need to go back to being who they are. Jim, I got to move along, but thank you for the call and thanks for your kind words. Patty in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Hey, Patty, what's on your mind?
Hey, something popped into my head while you were talking about health insurance. If we had universal health insurance, wouldn't that cut out the need for having personal injury liability with our vehicles?
Yes.
Homeowners liability?
Yes, and also workman's comp, yeah.
And I guess that's the FCCI that we have to pay that's like really massive. And all the insurance that's built into every business product and service on all the businesses, and wouldn't that leave more money in our pockets?
Yes. Yes, to all of the above, Patty. And you would no longer have these banksters that call themselves health insurance companies skimming 25% off the top of every healthcare dollar that we spend.
Well, I sometimes I add up how much money I pay in insurance, and it's more than my mortgage. It's more than, it's just built into everything.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, this is the FIRE economy. Finance, insurance, forget what R&E stand for, but whatever. It's real estate and something. But this economy is now being driven by banksters and insurance companies who are banksters. And
we're getting nothing for our money.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You said it so well. Patty, I want to try and get a couple more calls in before the end of the show. Thank you for the call. Anna in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, how do I pronounce your name?
Ona.
Ona. Hey, it's Ona. Yeah. You've been here and visited us. Yeah. Hey, what's up?
I have, indeed. So, wanted to talk to you about what happened in New Mexico regarding constitutional convention this week.
Okay.
So we're coming close to the end of our legislative session, and I was in a hearing the other day waiting to testify on a bill, and there's a group that's called Wolf Pack, which is young, trying to really engage the millennials.
Right.
And
it's Cenk Uger's thing.
They have a proposal for a constitutional amendment, and that's a convention, and that's what was being discussed.
Yeah.
And so they want it for one single purpose, and that's to overturn Citizens United. Fortunately, while it did pass, it passed with it. This is in a committee, so I'm not sure what's going to happen by Saturday, whether they're going to get it passed. But fortunately, there were some amendments that were made to it that if it should pass, it would only be for the single purpose of overturning Citizens United.
Right, in which case it's not actually a constitutional convention, in which case it's merely a proposed amendment coming from the states via Article 5. There's a great article. I wrote a piece on for Alternet earlier in the week. Last Saturday it went up, and then another piece went up the day before yesterday, and I'm forgetting who wrote it, but it was titled something like "The Last Thing We Need is a Constitutional Convention." I totally agree with that sentiment. We do not want to open the Constitution up to tinkering. But on the other hand, driving an amendment that ends corporate power, that says corporations are not people and money is not speech, driving a very specific amendment up from the states is the way to do it. But you don't call it a constitutional convention. That's suicide. Ona, thank you very much for the call. It's great to hear from you. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It's not enough to sit around and complain. It's not enough to, even just voting every 2 years. It's not enough. We need to build a participatory democracy, and that starts with you. Tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by EcoWine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, EcoWine.com. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit freespeechbeets.com.